Welcome back to Traveler's Proc. Today we're joined by Genetics. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming on as well. I appreciate it.
Hi.
Yo, what's
but
up,
for
everybody?
but for everybody that doesn't know, me and Mike do a podcast. We're gonna do it. We're gonna start doing it weekly, and we're gonna try to do it. I think on Thursdays around 4 p.m. Eastern. And we just like to talk Smite and talk comp and basically everything you could think of as Smite. But yeah, that's what we do here.
Yeah, I've actually been looking forward to having you on, Sam, because I feel like you're one of the few people who I feel like your brain just gets rolling like Aurora and I do, and I just love going off on like tangents, especially about stupid support stuff that nobody cares about. I love it so much. So
Yeah.
hopefully have a good time.
It was less awkward before, by the way, just for the just I wasn't as far it's not awkward like we were speaking before, and then it hits and I'm like, oh, get a little bit
Well,
nervous.
I'm trying to sorry, I'm like also out of it. I forgot to tweet, so
You
as
just knocked
well.
your mic.
All right, we're good now. We're good. We're good. I'm fully focused. I'm fully focused and ready to go.
It's not an episode unless you knock your mic or knock over the iPads.
Yeah, I got it. Wait, does it work now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I just slam the freaking thing. I'm sure my cat will be in soon and he'll slam it too. What an idiot. Um, yeah, I want to start about I guess this more recent stuff that's going on. Everybody who watches genetics, I'm sure already knows this, but just wanted to touch on how life's been. I know you've updated. Is your website fully updated now?
Besides one of the pages, yeah, pretty much
Nice. How's that been?
an absolute ball ache. If I could choose to not do it, like from the start, I probably wouldn't have done it again. Like
Really?
Really?
yeah, it's really annoying to redo. I mean, it depends, but like updating things and like making sure it's all clean is an absolute pain in the ass.
Honestly, it makes sense. I'm surprised though, because I feel like I know that like my girlfriend, whenever she wants to look for stuff, she loves like having stuff like your website just to look at. It's just I feel like it is really helpful, but it does look like a pain. Like I remember the first
Yeah.
few days after Worlds, you're just like sitting there editing it, and it does look pretty tedious for sure.
Yeah, tedious is the word. Like, I mean, the information's easy because I mean, picking information out of any of our heads from how long we've played the game is like
Yeah.
not easy. But the ability of like transcribing and like putting the information down on paper is a lot more difficult. Especially because, like, let's say you think of a build, like it's not only is it thinking of a build, but it's going online, searching the images for the build, putting it in
Yeah.
order, making sure things aren't messing up, and then you might come back to it a week later and it's like, okay,
Dude, I
You're on a
remember
different build.
was it last year you gave me like a Google Drive folder of like all the images, all the items. Do you
yeah,
remember
I
that?
yeah, I did. I
Dude,
had a bunch missing as well.
yeah, I remember doing that for like a like I was gonna do like item tier list and then even like putting that together. I feel like people really underrate like even though it sounds easy to just make like tier list content or something like that, if it's just like images, it actually is
Yeah.
like it's a lot more involved than people think. And I think especially as you said, when you're going through it to the level of depth that you want to, because like we'll all sit there and we'll think about like, oh, like why is this item good or like what you're buying and why. And when you like try to explain that fully to people, I feel like it's hard to not overwhelm them, but also give them enough information to they really like understand why you're saying like what you're
Yeah.
saying.
But also as well, another thing as well that I've like as you like start transitioning into a content creator and stuff is like also saying enough that it sounds like you know what you're on about. Like, for example, like I've had this recently where someone will come to the stream and be like, okay, do I build Spartan flag or war banner? And I'm like, well, it's pretty obvious to me. And I try and break it down. And sometimes my answer is like, well, like the answer just comes to like, well, eh, it's obvious. But like then people don't trust you and then they won't listen to you again. So that's one thing that's like it's hard to as well.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to kind of balance the line between I don't know if dismissive is the right word, or if you're just being like brief, but if you're just like, oh yeah, just like say you're just like, oh yeah, buy Thebes every game, it's broken, don't even think about it. People also will just like hate that answer if they really don't want to build it. Like sometimes people are just looking for
Yeah.
validation as well.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
and then yeah, that's true.
It's hard with builds. Like whenever I'm coaching people and they build something, I'm like, it's fine if you want to build that, it's good. But I always give them the other option. Like if this is good or this is good in this spot and it's better, but if you want to go this, it's fine as well. I think being open to builds is always a good thing, but there's definitely always something best to build, I feel like. But I love your website. I think it's a great idea. So I'm surprised. I guess it is a ton of work, but I feel
Yeah.
like it has to be somewhat worth it, like going on there and having it after doing like everything. But it's just, is it the fact that you just have to keep updating and updating? Like you said, like you do a different build and you're like, oh, I have to go back in and add another build in, like after I do something different in each god, or what's like the main thing that annoys you with it, other than
So
that?
there's different thing. Okay, so like there's for the financial aspect where like I don't directly know how much I make from the website because obviously like it technically increases my viewership and my like Nexus sales and stuff. So I know what's coming out. I know what I'm paying for it, but I don't know what I'm making from it. So it's like hard in that sense. Then there's the updates where like maybe in my head like I change my mind a lot. I'm quite bipolar. So sometimes I'll think like, oh yeah, this god's broken, and sometimes I won't. Maybe less with comp now being gone, but like sometimes I won't be happy. And then as well, like there's always a weak part of the website that you want to update, and when you fix that, then something else becomes the weak part of the website, and you're constantly in like a cycle where you're trying to fix the worst parts of the website, and that's always annoying. Like I'm not even a perfectionist, but like that is just something you have to suck up. Like this is going to be bad, and you have to
Yeah.
deal with it.
That would actually annoy me really bad too. Just, but yeah, I love it though. I think it's a great thing, and I think it's helped like a ton of people. So at least you have that going for it. But I could definitely see why it's just rough to keep up with, because that's what I was thinking when I saw you usually do it. I thought it was a really good idea, but I was like, man, that's gonna be a lot of work. Because for me, I'm always wanting to try different builds and stuff, and just that aspect of it alone, like at the beginning of season 11 when I
Yeah,
was playing a lot, I was going mystical male like every game on every god, and then eventually I decided, "Oh, I don't want to go mystical male only on like a couple gods, and I'm building this and now I'm building that." And then people would come in my chat and they'd be like, is mystical male bad now? And I'm like, no,
yeah,
it's good on these gods. And they're like, why do you only build on these gods and why not this god? And it's just like you're always having to change up builds and stuff. That would drive me crazy, I feel like. But yeah, I think Mike linked it in his chat. If you guys want to check out his website, it's smitesupportguides.com, or it's smitesupportguide.com, right?
yeah. That's the one.
Yeah. Check it out. It's really good stuff.
So this is pretty basic thing we like to ask everybody at the start of episodes is kind of like what got you into Smite and kind of what led you into, I guess, comp play, all of that sort of stuff. Because I think you have a more interesting story or like a different story from most pro players, at
And
least.
what other games did you play before you got into Smite? Like what was the origins like before Smite?
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
where did you
So
start playing games?
I found this out on stream like 3 years ago, but before I started playing Smite, I did a Google. I went through my Google searches over the years, and the Google search I made was, "Should I play Smite or War of Thunder?" Was the first Google search. Yeah, I don't know why I was going to choose one of those two
I'm
games.
looking up what War of Thunder is
It's
now.
it's like a World of Tanks, but it's like to do with planes, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And that was
Yeah.
the Google search I made for some reason, and that must have been because I played the game. I tried the game in beta. I think I tried the game in beta, and then I didn't play like barely that much. Season 1, 2, or 3, and then 4. I just became a no lifer on it. Before Smite, I played Battlefield Bad Company 2 as my main game. I had a couple thousand hours on that,
That's a banger game.
and I loved that game so much. The building destruction was like my favorite thing. And then I played FIFA, but I wasn't very good at that. So I was trying to find, and then I wasn't very good. So and then in season 4, I like just started playing. I think Sylvanas pretty much every game. I got like 9,000 worships on him in 1 year,
Oh my
and
god.
then
That's awesome.
What?
I love
yeah,
Sylvanas.
That's
I was just
insane.
yeah, and then I just played casual with my friend, and then we made a team, and then that was pretty much it.
So would you say you were more of like an FPS player coming into Smite, like before you played it, or like since you played Battlefield, or is it more of like more strategy type games you liked, kind of like before Smite?
I mean, I'm not even sure. I feel like I just played everything before. I feel like I was quite an open I played a
Yeah.
lot of different games, and then I just kind of threw everything else out and just only played with Smite at that point. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really that good at games in general as the problem, besides Smite. So that's probably why I stuck to it after I started getting a bit better.
Dude, I'm a big like if I'm gonna get good at a game, I have to play it over and over and over. Like there's some people like I would describe Neil this way. Like you could just have Neil pick up a random game and he's just like naturally good at stuff. Like Snoopy was kind of that way too if I played different games with him, but I'm just horrible. Like if I pick something up, guaranteed I'm going to be so bad until I like start grinding it a lot.
That's like my brother and the best or the best who I used to play with. I play games with them all the time, and both of them are just like very good at any new game we pick up. And I'm there like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so bad at new games too.
Aurora, do you remember when you first heard of genetics? Like
I
what year it was?
Yeah, I think the first time I started seeing your name had to be the tournament that you played in with like Lasbra, and you got banned in the middle of the tournament,
Hmm.
right? That was like the first
Yeah.
time I heard of you. Um, I guess we could talk a little bit about that. What was that like? Cause was that your first like SCC, or was it? I don't know what it was called back then, but was that your first like LAN that you played in, like official
No,
LAN, or no?
that was my second. So I played with my friends. We qualified to SCC. Uh, Half Devil got picked up by SK Gaming, who were like 0-15 at some point. And then I was on the number 6 SML team,
Was
and
that
I got offered
season
this.
5? That's season 5, right?
This is season 5, yeah. So I got
Okay.
offered by Insignum, which was the Diaspora Death Panther Joshi team, if I wanted to play for them, and I said no, I'm going to play with my friends. Then we ended up in 6th place, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll join the number 1 team over the number 6 team. And then and then I played for them in summer. We beat the North American team, like the Smiley Face team or something. Then we qualified for Worlds, and then yeah, I got banned. Unfortunately, I think third day in maybe. I think we were just about to play SSG, and then I got banned the morning of,
Yeah.
and then Hussein played. It was a little bit unfortunate,
Yeah.
deserved, but unfortunate timing. I think for
You guys beat SK Gaming that year, right? Or no, you
I
guys
think
beat
that
no,
they
they
were
were
right
trifecta.
trifecta. Yeah.
They were
trifecta.
trifecta. You guys beat them in the first round, right?
So we beat an Australian team. Was it we beat someone? Who was it? Was it an Australian team? Maybe it was either an Australian or Brazilian team. I think it was Australian. Then we played trifecta, beat trifecta. Then we played against Mouse Esports, which was the Cherry Nika roster. We got
Yeah.
swept by those guys, and then we were in the losers bracket. And then I got banned that morning before we were playing SSG, I think.
Oh.
And we would have beaten them. I still remember the bands. The bands were Mercury, Freya, Cerberus. I still remember the bands to this day because they changed the They almost won game 1 because you remember the broadcast went down that day.
The
Yeah.
broadcast went down
The
as well.
broadcast went down. Yeah.
Oh, that's tragic.
And I wasn't
Yes.
allowed in the booth either, so I had to like watch and like wait for players to walk past me and tell me the results and stuff.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember when you guys beat trifecta, I was like, oh dang, this team's pretty good. Because I remember going into like that worlds, a lot of people were asking like which teams are good. I'm like, I think like trifecta is really good. I remember a couple that you guys were asking me, and then you guys beat them, and they're like, dude, they don't seem very good. Like
Yeah.
Insignum just beat them or whatever. I'm like, no, they're good for sure. Because they were doing really well in scrims, I think, like right up until that event. And then you guys beat them. Like, dang, this team has to be pretty good if they beat them. And then that sucks that you got banned, but at least you got to come back for the next season, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah. It was a very short ban. It was actually I would have if they'd have qualified if they would have qualified for Worlds, I could have played in Worlds. I just got banned for the qualification tournament.
The
It
SSG
was a,
set was the final set, right? It was like if you won that, you were in. If you lost, you were out. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was it. Yeah,
Oh,
they
that
almost
is.
won game 1. It was a best of 3. They almost won game 1,
Oh yeah, wasn't
and
Kassir
then
owning or something?
Kasey was
Yeah, he was
playing
like randomly
Kuzumbo and
popping
Sylvanas.
off. Yeah, yeah.
I
I
remember,
remember
so I
that.
got banned, and like he was like, we were like, dude, like you got to play, man. And I was giving him I was giving him all the builds, and so obviously like everyone's like upset with me. I'm crying my eyes out. Everyone's mad at me and upset with me, and it's like so awkward. Like, what do you do? Like, I've
Yeah.
just like technically ruined the team's chances. So we went to a booth and like spoke about it. And we're like, well, Kasir's playing now. Let's make the most of it. So we were like asking him like, what gods are you comfortable on? We gave him builds for him, and then he put these headphones on and he's listening to like some Spanish reggaeton, like max volume. You can hear it. You can hear his music like I'm listening to it with earphones, and he's just there like go to gasolina, and he's like playing like just like in jungle practice with his builds and stuff.
Dude,
And he
he's
ended up
getting in
doing
the
like
zone.
yeah, and he ended up doing pretty well from like the replays that I saw. Like he looked like really good for the situation he was put in. Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. I think we had to go home like 2 days later as well. So it was
That
a
has
good
got to
start for
be
my
the
career.
most unique like LAN experience ever.
Yeah.
So
That
go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
no, take your train of thought.
Was that your first time you were in Georgia then? And then were you not? Did you go back for another LAN in Georgia anytime during season 6 or no?
That was my second time. So I went for the summer LAN and then I went for the Worlds qualification.
Okay,
Got
yeah.
banned during Worlds qualification. And then season 6 I made every LAN. I made every LAN in SML after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
you played. I remember you played in. So I guess
Did
fast
you play in
forward
the
a little
summer
bit.
LAN where we lost to Armada?
we beat Armada. We beat Armada and then we picked Dignitas and gave Armada to you. I
Oh,
made
okay,
you
that
lose
makes sense.
technically.
Dude, you could have beaten me instead. You fucked
No, we
that
wouldn't.
up.
No, we wouldn't. We would never have beaten you. We were never. We weren't. We weren't. We weren't as. I mean, not. I mean, stupid, ballsy, whatever Armada were.
They had mask on rat, dude. There's nothing we could have done.
Yeah, we were
We
gonna
could have
play some
banned it,
normal
but
smite, some really normal smite, and cross our fingers and hope for the best.
Oh man.
I do want to say one thing first, Aurora. I don't know if I ever talked to you about this genetics, but I remember I didn't know about you that much earlier. I hadn't like met you or anything, but I remembered your name. I don't know if you guys remember this or if any of the viewers who were still around back then remember this, but there was a start. I want to say it was like spring of season 5, and it was
Mhm.
the first set that Emilzy had played with Energy because he was on Obey the year before and he had swapped to Energy. And I remember back then when we played SPL, I mean, it doesn't matter saying now, but it was like pre-recorded by like a few hours, you know, like we'd play in the morning, they'd stream the game in the afternoons, right? And I knew that Energy had won the set because we have like our comp Discord or whatever. And I remember like I wanted to watch the set because it was just two good teams. I don't know if it was like Energy Dig or something like that, right? And Emilzy played Terra, and he did a start where he started his Terra 3 and he blocked the minions on the spawn, like next to the wall in the base. And I remember DMing Emilzy about it. I remember asking him about the start and like where he found that if he messed with it. And I remember asking him, I was like in like practice, like testing. I was like, can you do it on all the lanes? And like I think mid lane was slightly harder to do it on than like the two side lanes. But I remember asking him about it and where he got it, and he said he got it from you. He said like, "Oh yeah, there's this like." He called it like this. There's this random like EU ranked support player named Genetics, and you know how Nils is. Like he's pretty like he's nice, but also like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said like yeah he's some random like ranked troll. He's not very good, but he's really smart. Is what he said about it.
That's
Is what he said
awesome.
about you. But
Yeah.
he gave you credit for the start, and I thought that was really cool. And I instantly remembered your name from that because I was like, wow, that's like I would have never thought of trying that. And for someone to like try that and then also tell like a pro player about it, and then the pro player uses it, and he like set like a little like Terra meta for a couple weeks there with that. That was
They had
cool.
like they played like Rama mid, so they Terra 3 blocked the wave and played double Hunter and mid, and then invaded
Mhm.
red buff or something. I think was the start they did. I mean that was all them, but like yeah, the 3 block was I don't even know why I tried it, but I could do it in mid and then both lanes, and I made like a video and sent in the little unlisted video of like how you could do it and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I saw that too. I never messaged Emilzy, but I remember I sat in like Conquest Customs for literally like an entire day learning how to do it.
Mhm.
Um and I remember the first scrim I tried it in, I messed it up.
Oh,
And
dude.
everybody was like, bro, you can't spend a whole day in custom conquest.
Yeah.
And then the first actual game you play, mess it up. Everybody was like, dude, everybody's laughing at me. who I was playing with then. It was so bad.
Dude, I did that and messed it up, and you know how Benji is, but I messed it up and I tried to do it in Benji's lane, and then the amount of shit I got that whole scrim block was so funny. Like, I would like go for a route and he'd be like, "Don't miss this one too." Like the whole game, the whole scrim, he loved it, man.
It is finicky though. Like it's a finicky
It
placement.
was.
Like it's like because it's because I play on Instacast too. Like it was like really difficult because you have to place it in the corner, and if you mess it up, the whole start's ruined because then you don't even deny like any minions.
Yeah.
And you have your 3 as well, and you're in your base
Yeah.
like at the start of the game, so it felt super bad. But I remember there was like a spot like at least in duo side because I think I did the most in duo side. I got pretty good at doing it. There's like a little like crack like on the map. If you place
Yeah.
it like right on there, it would work like every time for duo lane. I never really did it I think in mid or solo as much, but I kind of mainly just did it duo side when I did it. I did it like I think I tried it once or twice in SPL and it worked out pretty well. That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that that was your idea. I remember that play though, the Emilzy doing an SPL watcher. That's really cool to hear. Did you have
I
any
think
other like things like that that you gave to SPL before like before you ended up joining like that or no?
no, I only messaged him Mills about two things was the Terror War block, and I messaged him to do a requesting an on her support video because he was doing like A to Z support like build, and I messaged him about on her. But that was it. That's all I ever messaged.
I didn't know you loved on her even that long, like back
I
then.
didn't know either, but I didn't even know it either. I don't think I had that many worshippers on her at that point, but I think I just wanted to try it, and I was like the whole like read out like list the ability and stuff, list the full kit and be like, yeah, can you give it a
I'd
go?
be surprised if you remembered this. Okay. This is at the end of season 6 going into season 7. I don't remember if you were still with Insignum or if you were a different roster or what, but do you remember DMing me at the start of season 7? Do you remember this at all?
No, I don't anymore. No.
Okay. I remember this was when we were then rival, but like that rival like ghost team or whatever. I remember the new season came out, and this was when they were messing around with like Hog and Invader's Curse and stuff like that. And I remember you messaged me about starts because we had just played like the invade meta, and you were asking like, "Oh yeah, like how would you start the game? Like, do you think Hog like ruins invades or this and that?" Like, and I remember like typing a bunch of stuff back to you, and I remember you saying a bunch of stuff like it was so funny to me because we weren't like super close. I didn't know you that well, but you were just like curious about comp stuff. And I remember you saying something to me because I was like, "Oh yeah, I would still invade anyways. Like I don't care. I don't think it changes anything. If you buy a hog, you're just out gold. I'm up pots. Like I'll poke the hell out of you. Get wave pressure. You can hog one buff, but you can't hog your red after that." Like I remember typing a bunch of stuff to you,
Yeah.
and you said something like, "Yeah, I don't know if it'll actually play out that way. I feel like it's kind of bad. Like you could just like pick more passive lanes." I remember I did it like the first 2 weeks of the SPL, and I just like chain invaded people and just like we were just super snowballing on that team. And I remember the only thing you said back to me, you were just like, "Yeah, maybe you were right," and that was it. And I just remember laughing to myself so hard about that because it was funny to. I don't know how other people view it. It's like maybe a little bit different when you're in your role, but I always liked watching players who I felt like were smart and were trying really hard to like understand the game or change things. And ever since like the story that Emilzy told me, and also you arguing with me about starts, because like I think a lot of people would just be like, "Oh, this guy's an SPL player. I'll just listen to him." But I think like being opinionated and having your own ideas, I think is really cool. And like there's people like you where I would say this about like Pegon, for example, too, the past couple years. I think it's cool when you're bringing your own ideas into the league and you have like potential to change the game entirely when that happens. So I remember like those little interactions of like Emil Z telling me that you were bad and also you like arguing with me. I remember they like stuck out to me so much, and they were like,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this guy's actually like probably pretty smart if he's like thinking for himself and like questioning all these things. Like that's a pretty good sign to me.
I think I do remember. I remember messaging you now. Actually, yeah, it was quite a long thread because I was thinking I've had a few players like reach out to me that have been SML, like asking for like advice and all this stuff, and I've been a bit of a different. Like I'm a bit more selfish, so like in ranked games when people message me like, "Oh, what should I build this game?" I'll go like, "I'll tell you after the game." Like I feel like unironically, if like I thought someone was a threat to me, I wouldn't. Not that like I mean, you were like one of the best supports, and I was like not even SML at that point, but I was just like SML at that point. But like I think I'd be different in that situation. I think I'd be a lot more selfish, and just be like a little bit more hesitant to even say my opinion. Because even the invade stuff, like especially if you thought you were really good at it compared to everyone else, like I'd be more inclined to keep that to myself if I thought I understood something better than everyone else.
Yeah, it definitely depends. Like if I was like, I'm sure what I typed to you wasn't like my full thoughts. Like I'm sure I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I would still invade, but I probably didn't tell you like, oh, this is like exactly how I
What?
would play
Yeah,
it, what
yeah.
gods I'd pick, all that, you know? But I remember like they probably don't stand out to Aurora at all because Aurora is definitely he's way more like tight to the chest than I am normally about that stuff. But like I would not say any of that to like him, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember this was season 6. It was the first time we moved there, and we had like maybe a month or two downtime. And I remember I just saw Aurora and Kabam at the gym, and normally we would just say like hi, what's up, you know, like chat for a couple minutes. And it was when the mid-season patches or patch notes got released, and I remember like saying to them like in passing, I was just like, oh yeah, did you guys see the patch notes? Like I'm pretty excited to play it. And Aurora was like instantly into defense mode. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna say what I think, but I think it's pretty cool or something like that. And like it'll be way tighter between like if I think
Mm.
someone's like directly competitive like that, I'm definitely way tighter to the chest about it. But I just remember I just like it when there's conversations like that and you feel like you can let your guard down a little bit. It is just fun to talk about, in my opinion.
Like when you get
Yeah, that's
drunk, when
fun.
you a little smite party or something, or like a little world's party or something. Apologies for eating,
Yeah.
by the way. My sugars are going low. Just not doing it on
No,
purpose.
you're good. Do your thing.
You're good.
That was really
Um,
funny. Do you remember Shinto when he was drunk?
Oh, that guy is crazy.
Hey, Mike, you want a team next year?
Freaking Shinto, dude. That whole team, the like was it season 9? I don't even remember, but Ronnie coming up to me at the after party was one of my favorite conversations. Those guys are just they're a good time waiting to happen. They love it.
I think I had the same conversation with Ronnie when he was drunk, like maybe like 7 times. It was just like who was the best support.
Oh, you guys love it. You guys are your little ego boys.
I mean, me.
Dude, I love this is like such a boomer take for sure, but I feel like I love those like sports, like people call them like barbershop conversations for sports, you know, just like, oh, who's the best like this or that or whatever. I love like stirring the pot with that and watching like Twitch chats get going. It's just so funny to me. That's also why I love doing like tier list content or streams. I love it so much. Everyone's ego gets so fragile. Wait, did you see
Yeah,
okay, we talked about this a little bit with Hurry. Did you see all of the teammate tier list stuff?
yeah. I saw it all.
Where did he put you? Do you remember?
He didn't. The thing is, it's a bullshit placement. He put me in average. But okay, first off, that guy,
Aw, that
I played with
guy.
him for like I played with him for like maybe like a month and a half.
Mhm.
Like it took 2 months on 180 ping, and that was like when I had no like stubborn opinions because I was first SBL team with no one that I knew. So he didn't even get the real me. And then he didn't even try and keep me in the SBL. He basically kicked me. So
Well, couldn't you just not travel, right? You couldn't travel
yeah,
because
but
it was
I'm
COVID?
just have I don't know. I just think Tyler could have tried harder. He could have spoke to Biden or Obama or Trump or something. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would like to see what like the Kings and Warriors would have to say. I guess more than him because I feel like you need to play together for long enough.
For
Like under
sure. Yeah.
stressful periods and like under like highs and lows and like especially when someone's like not performing how they should and like not practicing how they should. Like to me, that really shows like way more um
You learn the
about you
most when
than
you're struggling, that is for sure. Like, it doesn't even
yeah,
mean like you're like losing everything, but just like you said, like if you feel like someone's not like taking practice seriously or they're not playing outside the game, like that definitely that shows everyone's like true colors more than anything.
yeah,
yeah.
I feel
Because I
like.
didn't. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I was gonna say I don't like people have been asking me like asking for me to make one, but unironically, like a lot of people I've played with, I would actually put as really bad teammates and myself as one because I just think it's like there's not enough maturity between most
Mm.
players that I've played with anyway that like kind of make them like I would consider them bad. Like if I was to play like a sports event or something, I play field hockey. Like someone I know it's like not the same, but the amount of like because it's a computer game, you can put so little effort in anyway. Like even like not paying attention and stuff is like crazy when you're getting paid for it. Kind of feel like everyone in general was pretty bad.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like it's hard as well because I feel like your perspective on that changes when like because I think all three of us have been in positions where you're one of the main people who are leading the like tougher conversations, or you're like leading prep, or you're trying to get everyone on the same page. Like if you're having bad scrims, you're trying to get people on the same page about like, well, what do we think we need to do better? Like what god should we be playing? Like what do you think's the best way to play the game? And I feel like when you are the person who does that, like I said this when I had did it as well for like my criteria. When you're that type of person, like to me, having that energy received back, like someone like Cherio, for example, even though I only played with him when he was my coach, like I value the way he is with a lot of stuff because he would be that person where it felt like I didn't always have to be the one to like be the bad guy and like bring up the bad conversations or bring
Yeah.
up like the tough moments. And I feel like it's not that people aren't trying. Sometimes people just don't have like I don't know if it's like the capacity for it or what, but like some people just need like I could sit here and talk about like drafts for like 10 hours, and some people are like they do it for 30 minutes and they're fried and it like gives them anxiety and they're distressed. So it just shows up in different ways. And I feel like I learned that with some different teammates I had in the past. Like they were still trying their hardest, but to me it wouldn't like the way they try is different than the way I try, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I dislike towards the end of my career. That like, especially on Warriors, like when I was on Simplicity and I played with Death Panther and Laspera, or what, just Death Panther and Laspera, for example, when I was on, forgotten the name of it now. But when I teamed with those two, like we would speak drafts, we would have a best case, the worst case. Like, I mean, you showed your doc at the end, Mike. When you did your world stream, and I had one like I didn't have the exact same one, but we had a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And I remember when we played for the world spot in season 7, and we beat we took SK Gaming to when they won that year. We took them to game 5, best of 5, and we lost the 5th game. And then we played against, but then the 5th game, their bans were our worst case bans, and we had nothing else. We were like, oh, we're fucked now. But like, I had that like at the start of my career, and then on Warriors, like the amount of the little prep we did in drafts for Warriors was like at the start very frustrating, and then I got used to it. Like I wish I would have like pulled more towards my energy rather than theirs, because even on Kings we were quite like draft focused.
Yeah, I think that kind of stuff I played for so long, and I love doing the draft type of things. And I've been on teams where it's like hard to do prep, and I've been on teams where it's like really easy to do prep for drafts. And I think for sure, and no matter what anyone says in any argument, like doing good prep is always going to give you like a good advantage in the game. Like the best prep I've ever had for any team that I've ever been on was like season 5, season 6 place, and I think it mainly comes down to having someone like Kabam on my team with me to do that prep. You kind of need like another person to like bounce back and forth
Yeah.
with, because if you don't have that, it's so hard to do um deep prep, because like
Yeah.
you don't really have someone else to like check your opinion, even if they disagree with you or whatever. It's just nice to have a conversation back and forth about like all the picks and bans. But like what I've learned is like some teams are just not going to do as much prep as other teams, and that's just how you got to learn to operate. And I think it's fine. I do agree though. I think more prep is always going to be better, but it's hard to get everybody there to do it. And like whatever you can get is what I take usually from the teams I've been on. So I've just learned to do it, to go with it like that. But I do agree it is really hard and annoying sometimes, like on certain teams, to get the most out of like prepping before a set, because I do think it is really really important and good to do. Um
Dude,
and
the
yeah.
the classic is like he wouldn't care if I said it because we're still like good friends or whatever, but like Panda Cat is the most like he would terrorize those prep sessions because he'd be the type of guy where like he just no like he would tell me like this is what I want us to play, like here are the matchups I want, like if you put me in the spot I'm chilling, you know. And then he wouldn't be like the most engaged with the prep, like because he wouldn't really have an opinion on like what we would play in solo lane, for example. Like he doesn't really care about that as much. He just cares about like his game state. And Kabam and I would always joke because that year on like season 8 Dragons or something, me, Kabam, and Sam, Kabam would be exactly what you described, where he'd be like kind of the person to like check me on stuff. And Sam was very different. Sam for soccer would be like, he just he would be like one of two versions. It was either I don't care about anything this team plays, we could pass bans for all I care. He probably said that for like 70% of our games, I'm not gonna lie. Or he would be the person who's like, yeah, as long as I'm not playing against this, I don't care about the rest. Where like I want to go through like every scenario and be like, okay, what if they play like a healer comp? What if they do this, like that? Like I want like answers for everything. And I remember there was one, it was a playoff set. It was against like the Bolts or something. And I remember we show up and we like do bans, and in the middle of our draft in the game, Panda Cat's like, wait, why are we doing this? This makes no sense. that,
That's my favorite when that happens.
dude, he did that so many times, and my favorite part about it is Kabam was so flustered the first time he did it. Like Kabam's about to like pull his hair out. He's like, we just went over this for like 4 hours. And I just like, that's why I love Max. I just say like, dude, please shut the fuck up. And he's like, okay. And then that's the end of it. But it's still so troll to me. That's my number one pet peeve though. Like if you're someone who isn't going to sit there the whole time, like please at least don't question it once we're in the actual draft, you know? I hate that so much.
But I'm with you. I don't know. I could never make a teammate tier list. I think. I feel like I'm not. I guess I'm not as articulate with my words either, and I feel like maybe I come off as like mean or something if I made one. But it'd be hard for me to make one, um, for sure. But I think it was crazy that you and Herwin still did it. But I think you guys did it in a really good way to like.
I
Make
only
it
did
so...
it because I was the exact opposite to Gene, where I felt like most teammates I knew I was going to put pretty like high, so I didn't mind. Like my experience with most people was more positive than negative, so I felt like I wasn't going to sit there and like trash everybody. If I did feel that way, I would not have done it. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like trash people, but like for
Yeah.
example, like Sot and Pegon, they're obviously going in the bottom tier. Like, I mean, if there's a bottom tier, they're going there. You know, like what? I mean, I don't. It's like hard to like slander people. Like people can be good players, but also useless.
Yeah, Daniel is so sick, but he is beyond useless with that type of stuff. Honestly.
Yeah. He was the best thing about joining Warriors was like getting to know Daniel, but what a useless person. Like
he's so funny though, dude. That's the problem with Daniel. It's like hard to, you can't even be upset because he's just so funny, like in practice as well. It's just like just as long as he's not trolling too hard, it's a good time.
Yeah. The 10% of Daniel you get that's good is really good.
Only 10% you think you got out of him? No
well,
way.
he had Sot as well. So you got that's the problem. True. That's the problem. You have both of them, and both
of them enable
each
other.
They pick off each other's energy, and they also start it. So there's like a, it's going to strike twice at some point.
I never get to experience that with Sav because I feel like Sav was pretty good when I played with him. But I guess
your team has no option.
The chaos between Pagon and Sot, I could not imagine.
Here's the difference: like your team, Aurora, if Sot does that, you have Cyclone who's hammering down on the anti-troll from the very beginning. Like when you have someone enabling it.
As well, he was pretty good. I feel like.
Yeah, but that was Worlds, right? Like,
yeah, that's true.
People are gonna turn it off a little bit more for Worlds.
I wanted to ask one other thing, or I guess start another topic. I wanted to go back to Terra. I feel like just in SMITE in general, you have to be like Mike was saying, like you to kind of break out. I feel like and come in and be like a really strong player, like that's up and coming into the competitive scene. Like you have to have some like kind of quirk about you. Same thing with me. Like back when I played all the way back in like season 1. Like I feel like you're the best player like in the game with walls, like in general. Like you've always been really good with walls. Like why are you good with walls? Like what got you started in like wall characters? Like I feel like you've been playing Terra for so long because that was a character that you gave. I didn't even know that Emilzy story. I didn't even know that's where he got the tech from. But like what got you into playing Terra?
I honestly can't remember. I'm the walls thing is just like it's just because I played Ymir Terra, and then I started playing the Honor after. But I don't even know. Like I think it was just a gradual. Maybe I mean I feel like I have like a really weird take. Like everyone, like if you like picked every person in the world, you pick some random guy from India and you put him in a simulation for 10,000 hours. Like he's gonna have 3 gods he's randomly good at. Like I think about that. Like, and I think that maybe I just got lucky that the gods that I were good at all had like a similar like wall use, I guess. I don't know.
But that's probably why you're good at them though, because you are
Yeah,
just
yeah, I
good
don't
with
know.
walls. So
But
like, if
also
you're good with
I try
one
and
of
do
them,
well, I try and do fancy stuff a lot as well. And then when you keep doing it over and over again, eventually you'll get better at the fancy stuff because you're wasting so much time learning it. The amount of times I've messed up, but then it eventually, if you put the practice in, maybe it comes out the right way.
Yeah, I remember that with like my first like experience with that was really early on. It would be like a Sobek Ymir matchup. And I remember playing ranked with people and just being like, yeah, trust me, I'll wall the pluck. Like, don't worry about it. And the few times you like kill them because you mess it up, like maybe you're at a weird angle or something like that, it does like you do just have to go through that to get good at it. But I think what Aurora said is pretty true. Like I understand what you mean about like, you know, if you put a random person on it for 10,000 hours, like I'm sure there'd be stuff that they're good at. But I do also think it is kind of the way your brain works in a little bit. Like something that like if I watch you stream, something that I've always thought you were good at is you and you can notice this like with a lot of good players, you're actively thinking about what the other person wants to do in that situation. You know, like the person across from you, like what is like this support looking to do? Like what is this like carry looking to do? And when your thought process starts there, I feel like it gets you into such a better spot to make plays like that. Because for most people, they're just like, oh, I'm Ymir, I'm gonna wall them when I can trap them in, and then you're just gonna like wall, freeze, like the standard combo, you know?
Yeah, it's just strategy games in general, right? I feel like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just strategy games. Like, if especially if you're being the proactive one, they have to respond, and they're usually going to pick the option that's the best for them. So then you can maybe change it. Um, it's like I've been playing a lot of Age of Empires recently, and I'm still horrific at the game. But like, if you're going to do a strat, and they're obviously going to counter in a certain way, you can change your initial play to counter what they're going to do to counter your strat. If that makes sense, like. So I guess, especially with walls as well, like saving it for jumps and saving it for ability blocks and stuff, it probably
Mhm.
comes into it a little bit.
because for instance, like when I play against you, when you're playing Terra, like if I'm in a matchup like Yemoja versus Terra, for instance, like if I play against any other Terra, I feel like I can get away with like a bunch of stuff as the Yemoja. But like every time I'll Yemoja 3 and you're in range, you'll wall it every single time with your 2, which I think is really interesting because I feel like you're pretty consistent at it. And I play against another Terra and I'm like, they're not gonna do this to me. I can get away with like 3ing right in front of them and they're not gonna stop me from getting away. So I feel like things like that. I guess walls like have like a really high skill expression too, and I feel like it requires just a lot, like you said, a lot of hours of practicing and messing it up. But I do think it's cool. Like it definitely changes matchups and lanes if you get really good at walling. That otherwise would be like fine to kind of making the wall character like way stronger in the lane. But I think it's really
What's
cool because oh, go ahead, Mike.
well, I was gonna say it's funny you bring it up because I remember like I don't know if you guys have had a similar thing like this throughout your career. Maybe you would have, Aurora, because we've both just played for so long. But like I remember it was like season 9, like Worlds Prep or something like that. It was whatever patch. You guys remember there were like 2 different CC patches. There was one where they changed the DR cap, you know, went from like
Yeah,
4 stacks to like 8 stacks or something, or 2 to 4, I forget what it was. And then there was another patch where they changed how it was classified, like knockups and knockbacks gave you more stacks of DR, like versus whatever
yeah.
else. Like
Hmm.
roots, I think, went from like never being DR'd to like they could be. Like there's a bunch of stuff like that. But anyways, I remember after both of those patches, I was thinking about this thing that you're talking about where like I just thought Gen X was the best like at wall characters. Like you just loved like pretty much any wall character you got your hands on, you just loved it. And I remember thinking like, well, he's kind of right because like now walls are like unironically the best CC in the game. Like they're not
Yeah.
DR'd, like they're not
Mm.
affected by any of the stuff. So I remember like in the middle of season 9, I just try to spam them like over and over and over and over and just try to like think about like how I was walling and try to not like I would purposely play rank games and I would kind of tilt myself because I was like trying to not set up kills. Like I was very specifically trying to like use my wall in different ways. And I think it was I learned a lot from that as a player, even if I didn't get as good at it myself. You learn a lot like what you're trying to do against me a lot more. And I feel like it was a really cool experience to just be like, oh yeah, this person's really good at this. And now I think like this mechanic is actually really important and just spending a lot of time to understand it, I think is like just one of those things that just makes you a better player.
I did that a lot with Emoja actually as well. Because I didn't play Emoja because I was playing on ping. Okay, I didn't play Emoja at the start, and then I was on ping because I didn't play Emoja like when Ronnie was the best. I mean,
Hmm.
when Ronnie was really good at Emoja. And I remember like I watched back a few SPL games when I was on ping, and I just realized I was like, this guy's being so defensive every game. And I remember like playing in scrims just to be defensive only, and literally to give them like no mistakes, like zero mistakes from me, only be defensive and wait for them to like make mistakes. And I started doing that for like 2 or 3 months with Umoja, and it actually
Hmm.
helped me get better at Umoja too. And then as long as you recognize when it's good to be normal and when it's good to be defensive, and you can switch between them, then you're the best of both, right? In a way, I feel like
Yeah.
that was helpful for me as well to get better at certain characters too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's actually one of the things, like, I was definitely way more stubborn about it at that point, like, season 7, I think, was her first year. But I actually, like, I would have described Ronnie as, like, such a patient player with that type of stuff. Like, he would literally, like, AFK in some team fights until, like, the perfect opportunity came, and then he would, like, dump everything as Emojo, but it was just good on that character, and I remember, like,
Yeah.
the amount of alts I have missed in the SPL because I'm, like, trying to 3 somebody and then, like, wall them, and then they, like, clip through the wall, and I, like, slam my freaking desk. Like,
Hmm.
I just can't help myself. Like, I have to go for it.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, I'm not as like aggressive as you two, and I haven't had the chance to be in certain mess. I'm way more passive than you guys. But I have definitely like, not insulted, but I definitely said a few mean comments about the way people play certain characters, especially
Mhm.
like if you're rivals with them. I definitely have like said like some like, oh, this guy just does nothing on Yomoja until his team's already winning the fight for him.
Dude,
And I'll be
okay,
like,
okay.
and I'll
We
be
have to
like, you
talk
guys
about
just
this now. We have to talk about this now because Aurora and I did a podcast episode, and it was right after I was watching you stream, and it was a clip where you're like, "I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. If I have to ban Aurora's Yamoja, there is something wrong." And we were watching it before we did a podcast episode,
oh,
and we were like crying, laughing. So I'm
yeah.
so glad you brought that up. We
Yeah.
have to talk about that
Okay.
as well.
Okay, for the record, I am being a cunt on purpose. But like, if you know what you're good at, you know, and like if you think in your mind you're the best at something, and like someone else can do it and like be up there with you, to me, I like certain things that you're really like stubborn on that you're good at. So I was just letting off steam, you know.
Yeah, no, I get it. I didn't care. I just thought it was funny. I just like for me, how I've always operated is I always think like I'm kind of like you, like you know how you were talking about earlier, like how you don't like to give away like many things. Like my ideal situation, like when I'm playing, like honestly, this year it was a lot different for me because I feel like I branched out a lot more and I talked to more people on other teams. Like when I play Smite, like I only talk to my team like the entire season because that's just how I like to do it. I don't think it's the right way to do it. I don't think like it's the wrong way. I just that's how I like to do it when I play. Like I go purposely go out of my way to not talk to other players and other teams. Not because I don't like them, just because I feel like I have more of like an edge when I'm playing if I'm not talking to them. Because like when you talk to people, things come out about Smite all the time, whether you like it or not. Even if it does, like something will always like maybe not slip, but something will always come out or some conversation will happen because it's our lives basically. Like we're living it. So I just prefer to like not talk to other players. Um, so I like when you said that, I was always like, that stuff gives me motivation when people say stuff like that. I was I was like, yes,
Okay, I
I want to be
remember.
you so bad with emotion, but yeah.
Yeah. By the way, you locked in Emoji the scrim session after every game, 3 games in a row. I remember I remember going through that after and I said it to myself. I was like, this guy's just playing Emoji just to try and piss me off.
Yeah, but no, it's good. But it's all good fun. But I'm like you though with that kind of stuff. I like to keep it more close, like I guess tight to the chest, like Mike says. But it's fun. It's good. I think someone earlier in the YouTube chat said like thanks for being like the villain the SPL needed because I feel like the trash talk. I think Zap has always said this about you, which I agree with. Is like you're not afraid to trash talk and like say things like before games or
No.
like you do trash talk right. I feel like because a lot of people trash talk like after the match is over or like they're like afraid to say things, but you're cool to go in whenever you want about stuff, and I respect that a lot about people. Because I think it's lame if you win and then say something that's like whatever, dude. Like you're just dumping
Yeah.
salt in the wound at that point. Like if you
Well,
say it before a game or you say it like just out of the blue, like it has nothing to do with like whatever situation is happening. Like I think that's way better to do than like saying it just like after you win, because who cares? Like after you win, you won already. It doesn't really matter at that point.
yeah. When you insult someone before the game, it adds stakes to the match. Like it's like gambling, you know. Like it adds way more. It's way more fun for the player insulting. But if it gets, you know, if you lose, it goes back in your face a lot. It's a lot more risky. But I did it in sports. Like I mean, my dad was very vocal on the sidelines when I used to be young, and he would just shit talk the enemy team, even though they were children. He was just like, they dropped the ball. He's like, he's rubbish. He can't hold a ball for the life of him. And he did it. I mean, like, so like my dad would do it all the time, and that's why I'm. I like think that's why I'm the way I am. Even on like even I play field hockey back in the UK, and I'm awful at the game, but I'll still shit talk people that are 10 times better than me just because it's just way more interesting, you know. It's just difficult in the SPL when everyone's like friends. Like we know more about each other than even most people do. Even if you don't want to, you just naturally migrate together at events and living the same life pretty much as well. Kind of just even different ages.
Yeah, there's only
Yeah.
like there's like 48 of us like that moved down there basically, like the 8 coaches
Yeah.
and like the 40 players. So there's not that much of us. So I feel like we play each other like every year. Like me and Mike always laugh about the double round robin. We love that format. But like we play each other a bunch every single season. So you just bound to run into each other,
Yeah.
speak with each other, all these types of things. So it is hard.
It's awkward as well if you have like rivalries and like shit talk. It can get awkward if it's like a long lasting thing, like between a player. Like if you don't want to speak to someone, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends because I think something that a lot of fans probably maybe they don't take for granted anymore, but I think when you have a really polarizing player, which I would say you were to most fans for a long time, it is really good just for the league in general. And I think a lot of people tend to appreciate that. Like, for example, if you trash talk like me or whoever before a match, like I feel like it is way easier to respect that. I've definitely had moments where I would trash talk or say something after, and it would like I could have done it in a better way because the number one thing that triggered me, I'm not going to say who the players were, um, but the number one thing that triggered me throughout my career is I hated beating somebody, and then after the match, there'd be a lot of like tweets after that would just sound like kind of like passive aggressive, but it would just be like, "Oh yeah, like we didn't play our best," and like it kind of diminishes it, you know, like it makes it sound a lot less like, "Oh, we lost," and more like they got lucky. And I hate stuff like that. So I would like sometimes I would like I would sarcastically like be passive aggressive back and be like, "Damn, we just got really lucky today. Like, can't believe we won." Like,
Yeah,
but I
I've
think
seen
it's
those.
it's definitely better to do it the way you did, where like you'll just like it would have been better and more respectable, I feel like, if I was just like, really hope the other team throws again today. We need to get lucky to beat them. Like stuff like that is like just trash talking beforehand is definitely just better for everybody. And I do think it's good to have people that you hate in a competitive league as well. Like whether it's people that like hate any of the three of us, or like I know like Zap is another player like that. There's people who love Zap. There's people that hate him. Like it does just bring more like traction or like more stakes, like you said, to the matches. I think it's good for the league.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree.
The other thing too is I feel like after season 7, I know a lot of the EU, like the EU fan base, didn't like me like in season 8 at the beginning of the year, so they were so happy when I was losing. It was always super funny to me, like I get messaged like in game because that's when we played online. We didn't have the SPL server season 8. It was like it was still, we couldn't go into a studio because I think the second half of season 8, that's when you got there, right, to Georgia with the Kings, like that season, I think, or
Right at the end, yeah.
yeah, like the end of the second half, but the beginning, the first phase, like we were still playing. Everybody's like online, but some people were already there. Like all the people that could move there were there, and every game we lose, like, yeah, you lost, dude. That's what you get for making adapting quit or whatever. Like everybody loved messaging me that all the time, so I felt like I had that like with the whole EU fan base for like a while too. So it was definitely interesting. But I guess I never really trash talked. It was just I just got it a little bit then.
I
It's
just
kind of hard. Sorry, go on.
No, no, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say it's kind of hard to like shit talk a player like you or Raw as well because like you are such a nice guy. Like it's easier to shit talk someone that I know like has said stuff to me, said like mean stuff about me before, or like openly, like publicly or privately. Like it's a lot easier like bashing someone. Like I remember like bashing Ronnie. Like I would do it all the time because he would like one time they like when they used to show like then Sangwon used to like leak their end of game stuff. He would randomly tell me to suck a dick and stuff, and I'd be like. I ain't even spoke to the fellow. What's he insulting me for? And ever since then, I've been like, I like him. So like you can get in game, of course, but it's like a lot easier to insult certain players. They're like neutral players that can give and take a little bit more, rather than people that are just nice. Like insulting Neil. What is insulting Neil gonna get me?
Yeah, Steve is like the easiest person I feel like to trash
Yeah.
talk. Like Steve, because Steve will also give it back to you a little bit. Dude, Neil makes me second guess everything because I was thinking about him when we brought up the conversation about like keeping things tight to the chest. Neil would always message me in scrims, be like, "Oh, you're building that, huh? Do you think that's the best thing to build?
Yeah.
Like, should I be building that?" And there's times where like I can't tell if he's being genuine or if he's just trying to have a conversation or if he's trying to piss me off. But Neil loves that type of stuff. He loves this. He is such a yapper, man. He is just the biggest yapper ever.
He does that to me as well. I think was it Hori as well. I kept playing tier support and towards the end of last year, and I was convinced it was broken. And then was it Hori or Neil? Maybe it was both of them. They kept messaging me like, a lot of tier today, and it's like kind of weird. Like maybe I should give it a go myself. And then I played against Hori the next week in scrims, and he went, "We're a new team today," and they first picked tier and then played tier support. I'm just like, okay, and then he loses, and he messaged me after like, yeah, like don't worry, we've got something in the works, and like. They played like Tears and Army and lost you lane. And I was and then they're still typing, man. Some of those people are just
I love it. Dude, I remember since you brought up Hurry, I remember this happened pretty recently. Do you remember Hurry messaging you about your stream title before Worlds? Do you remember this at all?
no.
Okay. Hurry and I were playing WoW together, and you made your stream title like playing completely random characters before Worlds, and you're just playing Ganesha every single game on stream. You're just playing it every single
Yeah.
game. And Hurry and I, like, we scrimmed against you because we're on the opposite side of the bracket. And we're just both thinking, like, he's got to be trolling, right? Like, if you wanted to tell people you were playing something at Worlds, this is the best way to do it. Like,
Yeah.
you make your title sarcastic and then you play that. And he said he like said something in your chat like, "Oh yeah, you're never gonna play this, huh?" And you like got mad at him or something. Is what he
Yeah.
said.
Okay, so I did get mad at him because I was like, dude, well, the thing is, okay, for the record, I am aware that one of my weaknesses is that I do play on stream when I'm gonna play on game day. Like, I do that all the time. But going towards, I was like, yeah, if I have 4 gods, I can't get banned out. So I was like playing a lot of Afro and Ganesh, and I was like, yeah, like I've got 4 gods, I'll be fine. So then I ended up giving up on the random pick because I just get bored of playing. Unless I would play what I'm gonna play, I get really bored.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yes.
yeah, so
I'm that way
I did
too.
troll.
Yeah.
I have trolled, but I just got bored by the end of it.
You just have
But
to
Tyler
not
did
make your
piss me off though.
stream title that. Like,
Yeah.
you think we're not gonna see that and be like, "Oh yeah, he's never gonna play Ganesha."
It's hard though, It's like content creator, SMITE, like then like
True.
the
Actually
funniness
true.
of it as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, it could have
yeah.
been handled better.
It's so funny, like for me too. When I stream, it's so rough because like when I stream like during the season at all, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play something that I'm not gonna play. I did a little bit like I guess last year, but especially like in years past, like I guess last year and the end of like season 9, I guess I played a little bit more what I would play, I guess, on stream that I would at SPL the couple times I streamed. But before that, whenever I streamed, I would just try to play like random gods. I would literally lose every game and like feed every game. I'm like, bro, I'm not having any fun. Like, I don't want to stream if I can't play what I actually think is good. So that's one of the
Mm.
reasons why I didn't like doing it a lot because it's so hard to like be able to stream, have fun playing while playing picks that you would never play otherwise. But yeah, it's rough. So I can definitely see why people do it. And I don't
That's why
even think it's like a bad thing. Like, is what I determined like when I was playing like at the end of season 9, like all of last year, like whenever I stream and play picks, I'm like, people kind of already know what I play anyway, so it doesn't really matter if I play it on stream. So
yeah.
like whatever.
I think it depends too, like, if there's if there's a
Patch.
bigger patch, I would
Yeah.
just I would care about the build more than the characters. You know what I mean? Like let's say it's like season 11, for example, like Thorns gets buffed, all this stuff. Like, of course I'm gonna play, like I'm gonna test like Thorns every game and like see what it's like. But I could play a lot of characters and go Thorns. Like I just would try not to show like exactly what type of character I'd play. It's just funnier when people do it before Worlds. Like Sino's another player like that. He's like fully aware of it. Like you see Sino in ranked, like he's playing the characters he wants to get better at, but like it doesn't mean that's necessarily like easy to draft around either. So it is a little bit of give and take. Sometimes you psych people out that way, honestly, as well. Like the amount of times I've probably bottom 2 banned Naja against Sino and he's had no intention of playing it is probably like in the double digits, like easily. This
Yeah,
is
I
the
mean, it's just
respect you get.
mind games are weird though, right? Because I mean, the reason I started wanting to play Ganesh actually as well is because Leviathans, they hadn't been as a game without banning Khepri Umoja. So I was like, okay, they're gonna ban Khepri Umoja, so I need to get a third god because they're never gonna put 3 into me because
Oh, is that why
they
you
get
tweeted that?
destroyed.
You tweeted that before semis,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I knew they haven't been.
Yeah.
They literally every single game, every time they lose a game, it's the Khepri Umoja. I'm in 2-trick, but it's like like I was like they're gonna ban it. So I was like, if I get a third god, so I didn't even mind showing Ganesh on stream because it's a god that I played against them before and lost with against them twice. So I knew they weren't going to ban it. So I was like fine showing it for Leviathans. So I was actually fine showing that. Actually, now that I think about it in hindsight.
That makes
Yeah.
sense, yeah.
I remember, I guess since we're on World Scrims, so like this past Worlds, I remember playing against you guys. You guys, I think, crushed us like every game, and the only way we ever beat you guys is when you played Ganesh because we actually got out of the laning phase in dual lane, so we started banning it. And
Yeah. And
did
we
that make you guys want to play it more? Because we banned
no.
it because we wanted practice against you guys pressuring us in lane. Because we're like, if they play Ganesh, we get out of lane for free. Because I feel like you guys were like the best at like punishing like the laning
Mhm.
phase and kind of like snowballing the game and winning in 20 minutes. But if you play Ganesh, it would never happen. So we're like, we're just gonna ban it every game so we can get practice against you guys, like trying to run it down on us. Because that's what we needed practice. We didn't need practice like 20,
Yeah.
30 minutes deep. So that's why we started doing it like every single game against you guys in the top 3.
So if I remember correctly, so because you were the only team that we were guaranteed to play against in finals, we didn't save anything versus you. So it was literally just playing. For me, it was playing Ganesh and Afro every game. If you guys banned Ganesh, we would petty ban Sobek so that Afro was there.
Yeah.
That was the scrim meta, and then like we were hiding picks versus other teams. I don't know what we hid versus Dragons. We probably didn't hide a lot. I don't think we hit a lot actually, but like
There was
versus
no
other
shot you
teams.
thought you were playing us. I don't think you had anything.
No, no. I mean, no. I mean, I'll be fancy on paper that we thought we'd run
No, of
through in
course.
finals and
Of
in
course.
3-0. But no, we did save a few picks there. Like we scrimmed Kings. Actually, we scrimmed Kings the tournament when they were qualifying for Worlds. They like asked us for scrims, and like I felt like a dick to say no. So we scrimmed them and we hid everything. Like we didn't show
Yeah.
a single thing to them, and we still ended up picking them anyway.
Dude, yeah, no, it's funny you said that because so we wanted to scrim against you guys, and you guys ended up getting scrims against the Kings, and I was like, they're for sure not gonna pick the Kings, like if they're gonna scrim them, because I remember the day you guys scrimmed the Kings, it was literally like a day before, it was like the Saturday or whatever, like when they didn't
Yeah.
play their match because they lost to the Scarabs or whatever. And then they played like they had no game on Saturday. They had to play Sunday to qualify, and I think they ended up scrimming you guys on Saturday. And I'm like, okay, if they're gonna scrim the Kings, there's like no way they're gonna end up picking them. But then you guys still picked them anyways after the fact. So I was like surprised because it was literally a day before you guys had to pick who you wanted to
Yeah.
play against.
Well, I think so. When I joined the Warriors, they were like they had PTSD against you guys specifically, Raw, because when they lost to you guys in the summer, they were saying like the only reason the reason they lost is because they showed everything in scrims. So like when we were scrimming teams that we thought we could play, like they were on tryhard mode for like not showing certain picks just because they had PTSD from the previous tournament. So we did that against Kings. I wanted to pick Ravens anyway. I got outvoted. It wasn't me that wanted to pick Kings because it was too risky for me. If I lost that set, I'd have been mentally out the rest of my life.
Oh man, but you guys won, so
Yeah, it's perfect for the storyline. Anyways, it was good.
yeah.
Yes, it was like, funny because I didn't want to lose to Kings. Panny didn't want to lose to Leviathans. We needed someone on Dragons that had fucked over one of our teammates to get the blood pumping, you know.
Yeah.
You need Nika to trash talk you in the queues more or something. I don't know.
It had to be like Royd or something. Like someone had to show like Dada's like, oh, this Royd deserves not too good at the game.
Yeah, good luck getting Dardas to say anything.
Well, actually, a bit of a tangent actually. But one of the when we ended up making a decision to kick Royd from the Kings, one of the big turning points for me was when Panda Cat had a go at him and shit talked him, and Royd didn't say anything back. That was unironically one of
When was
my most
that?
telling things. It was after you guys beat us in the summer tournament. It was a best of 5.
I remember the set. What did Max say after?
He was just saying like he dog walked Royd, and he was saying a bunch of shit. Like he was like shit
On
talking Royd
stream
for like
or on Twitter?
I think it might have been both. It was definitely
Okay.
on Twitch, if not on Twitter. And I linked it in Discord, and Royd just didn't say anything. I think everyone else responded, but Royd, and I was like, bro, hey,
Interesting.
someone said that about me, I wouldn't be too happy. A bit
Yeah,
of pride, you know.
yeah, it's tough. Like the scrim meta stuff is so hard. Do you remember? I wanted to talk about world scrims as well. I don't know if I talked about it before. Can I talk about the day where you raged at me? Do you remember this?
Me, I raged at you.
You like not like at me, like you didn't like personally insult me, but like I think I pissed you off, yeah, because you wanted to restart a draft. Do you remember?
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, I wasn't angry. I was just like, we were just both two stubborn men.
Yeah.
We were having a bad. I think we were having a bad day of scrims, and I was like, for the record, my sugars were high as well, so that's my excuse. And my sugars were high, and I was like, if I'm doing more a game, it's going to be a good one, or I'm leaving. So
It was just what Aurora said for us as well. You guys had owned us most scrims. We got owned most scrims before Worlds in general. And I think we played you guys. It was like early December, like we still had a few weeks to go. And there was a day where we like 3-0'd you guys on the second block, and then you guys stopped and we're like, oh, like maybe they're tired or they didn't take it that seriously. Like you probably scrimmed Ferrum in the first block, whatever. And then we had you guys in the morning of the next day. So we finished the first day with you, and then we had you the morning after. And we beat you the first game, but like we probably shouldn't have. Like I think it was like a 50-minute game that you guys probably threw or something. And then we like stomped the next game, and then at like 15 minutes you guys surrender, you want to redraft, and Genetics types in the lobby like redraft or something like that, and I said no, we want to do a new draft. And then you said, okay, well, no, actually it's this or GG's, my blood sugar is too high. And I was like, I think like Darda's chirped in a little bit. He's like, oh, how about taking a walk for a break or something like that. And then I was just like, no, like redraft, or I was just like, yeah, redraft or we're done. Or you want same comp, not redraft. I'm sorry. And I said like, no, redraft or we're done. And we're like, and you were like, fuck it, GG's then. And Cherry was like, wait, are we really done? And I was just like, I'm not backing down. Like,
I was the same.
Yeah.
You just get one person each team is like, guys, like maybe we should. And I'm like, I was out the door about 2 minutes later, because I mean, it's like we were having a bad time, you know, especially like, when we're getting beat.
Yeah.
And like I think we were dominating. We were doing really well in scrims. I mean, it's a good scrim team, so of course, like it doesn't mean anything. But we were a great scrim team. So when we went on loss streaks, it was kind of like, guys, like this is pretty bad. And like it's like hard, like if you don't have the player to bring you back up again. This is definitely not me on my team. Like if we're losing and we're losing bad, I'm not going to help people feel better mentally. So on Warriors we didn't have that, so it was already like not great, you know. And for the record, I think last did get was 5-0 on Dargy in 5 minutes. So I was kind of like, is that gonna happen on game day? But I mean, it always does with last. So
something about the Danes on Dargy, man. They got it.
Too much.
But yeah,
Too good.
I remember like having that it was so funny to me, my experience with that, because I'm sure Aurora has experienced, well, and I know he's experienced his fair share of scrim restarts and people being salty and like F6 in games early. And in NA, it's like such a common thing for those players. And I remember all of my teammates were like, wait, really? You're just gonna be done like that? And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be done like 100%. Like I'm not, I think I was instantly like, yeah, fuck these guys. I don't care about his blood sugar. Like if it's bad practice for me, I'm not doing it. And like Cherry was like, all right, I guess we're done.
I mean, it's just like it just happens sometimes, like when practice isn't useful for either team, you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, sometimes it is like, I think especially at that time, everyone's like double blocking every day. Sometimes you do just like, you need a day where you just vent out, kind of rage quit, and then can like decompress a little bit, I think is good.
Yeah, I mean, we had like a really rocky time before this. Well, our scrims are terrible. Like we were winning a lot, but they were still bad, which is when it's a sign that things are going poorly. So they were like up and down, all over the place for the last Worlds too, so I'm not surprised we didn't have more of them.
Yeah. Since you brought it up, I'm kind of. Oh, go ahead, Aurora.
I have a question for both you guys really quick too.
Okay.
Hopefully this doesn't make you lose what you were gonna say. But
I
like
got it.
going into, so you won season 4 and then you won this past season. You won season 9 and I won season 5. At least for me, like going into the season 5 worlds that I won, I felt like there was like, I'm trying to think of like the right word. Like like the best way is like the whole team was like on edge going in like season 5 because we weren't having like the best scrim results, and like it felt like nothing was going our way. Like I'm curious to know, like for like the years you guys both won, was it like that for you? Like because for example, like season 8 for instance, also season 9's really crazy weird for me. Like the whole thing was dumb, but season 8 for instance, like going to that world like against Leviathans, like we didn't lose any scrims. Like we were just like rolling everybody like every single game. So there was like no like tension or edge like on our team at all. It just felt like we were like there was nothing like going against us. It felt like we were just gonna win, but we showed up and we played terrible against the Scarabs. I remember we still won, but then we just played really bad against the Leviathans. But I feel like the season 5, the year I won, and the same thing with season 6. We were kind of rolling everybody most games in season 6, but season 5, like we were just getting crushed, stomped left and right by your United team like every single game. And I felt like the edge that we went into with to that world's like helped our team to kind of win. I don't know if it was the same for you guys because like season 9 you kicked Royd like right at the end, so I'm sure there was a little bit with that. And then season 4 same thing with you, like you had to pick up Ven, but and then this past season same thing. You guys were through the best, but I'm curious, was it like that for you guys, or did it just feel easy like going into the worlds that you guys won, and it just felt like, yeah, this is easy?
You can go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, no, it felt when on Kings in season 9 felt dead easy.
Yeah.
We didn't lose. We lost literally no scrims. I think the only scrims we lost to was you guys, Aurora, when you were playing with the strategy,
But the
the
last
fours and
like,
the semis. The
yeah,
last block was when that was the only block we
the
lost in
last
like
it
3
was like
weeks,
the
pretty much.
last 2 days we beat you guys like every game, I
It was
think.
Yeah,
just like
with
the
It was like,
Ama Hebo Thana
it was
thing.
Ama Maui Hebo, right? I think it was like
yeah,
Ama Maui Hebo.
the NASCAR comp, yeah.
Yeah. Because we couldn't do anything. We were like getting tired, and we genuinely lost our minds against that. But besides that, we won every scrim. Our practice was really good, and then our only thing going into Worlds is like, yeah, like if people start doing that speed comp, we just have to ban it and hope for the best, because that was the only thing that pisses off. But no, it was easy. Like that was by far the easiest scrims that I've had ever as a player.
Wow. Yeah, but no, that's opposite for me. So that's
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah, I think I like.
You've been on both sides, I feel like,
Yeah, I
right?
was gonna say, not in an egotistical way, but I probably have experienced this more than maybe any other player because I've had a lot of worlds where I've gone into it as like the number 1 seed or the favorite, and then I've also had it like this year. And I think what I've learned from being on both perspectives is like I would say our season 4 and season 5 years were pretty similar. Like you guys lost most of your scrims to us when you were Splice, and then the last week I think you guys kind of like figured out a few things, and then you like Geb solo, for example, I think you guys figured out and you were like, oh, that works, like we have something new to like mess with. That's kind of how we were against LG. Like they owned us every single scrim. Mask was like 20-0 God King running around the map, killing every lane. And then we like figured out a couple things. Then we like narrowed down like our draft prio, and it was just like very like formulaic, like this is open, we do this, then that, then this. And then we like didn't lose to them for like 2 weeks straight, and we're like, okay, nice, we know what we're doing. So I think like when you kind of have that moment of when you're struggling in scrims and then you get that moment of like, oh, this is what we need to do, I feel like it opens up so many things because then you're all like you're forced onto the same page, you know, like everyone's forced on the same page where they're like, oh, this is the change we're making, you can tell it works, and then everybody buys in and nobody has second guesses. Whereas like let's say you're on the other side of it. So we experienced this the ghost year. We didn't play you guys on Radiance much at all because even though you're on the other side of the bracket, we played you in both finals. So we felt like if we were going to play anyone out of that side of the bracket, it was going to be you guys, or SSG was like the cherry team. So we scrimmed SK a lot, and it made us rage because they would just like F6 a bunch of games, or we would kind of stomp them. And what I've learned from being in that position is that you know that you're winning, but why you think you're winning might be different than why they think they're losing, if that makes sense. So you're thinking in your head like, oh, they need to like ban this character, it's too OP or something like that. Whereas like, if you're SK, you might be thinking like, oh, we just have to like not lose the game at this point, or oh, we just have to like make this rotation, or we just have to adjust like this thing. It could be anything. You just don't know what they're thinking. And I remembered applying that to the Dragons this year. It was the first time I was kind of on that page where like, I think I said this on stream as well after Worlds, but like after we had won semis, I remember I went into our team room and I had told them, I was like, no matter what team we play, they're both going to think we're free. I guarantee it. Like, I've been in that position twice. I promise you. They're not thinking like, wow, they played so great against the Ferryman. What a dangerous team to play against, Like, I was like, yeah, they're not thinking that. They're thinking we're dog shit and they're thinking they're going to stomp us. Like, I promise you. And you talk about your scrims or you talk about what you need to change, and the other team just kind of goes in blind. Like, they have no idea what you're going to change. And I feel like that's when it's worth like, I'd say our game 1 draft against you guys in the finals was like kind of risky because we like disrespected a lot of things. Like Athena literally 100% ban rate from second pick side before that
Yeah.
game. We just leave it open. And like we
Risky,
knew we
but
were leaving it
I
open.
think is the
Smart.
crazy thing is like I
Yeah.
called that. I called that 100%, and nobody else believed me because I said like I said. I mean, not like it's not egotistic. I just said like they can't win the draft otherwise. Like Athena's not been picked. No one's playing it. Like I thought it was really overrated anyway. I just thought he played it
I
because
thought it
everyone
was
else to
yes,
play it.
same.
Yep, same.
If, I played with Daniel and Saw. I said if you guys just don't feed for the first 10 minutes, the character does nothing late game. She has
Yep.
no good relics. She has. I
She's
still think it was the
garbage
most
in
overrated
lane
pick in the
as
game.
well.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
so
She's
Yep.
bad in
guaranteed.
lane. You
Yeah,
literally
especially
lose
the
lane if
pressure.
you pick her.
Yeah, especially as a pressure merchant. Like I was like, great. Like I love playing against Athena. No, like no, she has no good matchups. She has only bad matchups in my opinion. She just affects the map a little bit. So I was like, they have to leave it open, and then we picked that anyway, and then the rest is history. But it must be like a pretty good tool to be able to like swap because yeah, we definitely thought that way. Like we 100% thought like if we beat Leviathans, it wasn't even going to be close.
Well, the hard thing about it too is because without like going into detail about our set specifically, like when you are the team in the position that you've been getting owned by these guys every single scrim, like I'll use like the Splice year for example. Like if we lived in a different world and we didn't lose in quarterfinals and we played Splice in the finals, I'm sure our drafts would have looked very different from the set they played with Rival, right? Like it would have been a completely different metagame what both of our teams were caring about because we played like probably like over 100 games against each other in scrims within like a month. So like we just have a different idea of what we each care about, and the hard part is, let's say we were going into the finals against you guys this past Worlds, like if I had one idea of like this is what I want to change against this team, and then like Lass has another idea, Dardas has a different idea, like if we all start arguing, it makes it really difficult, and then it's hard to get on that same page because we didn't really beat you guys in scrims consistently that much. Like the only thing we really talked about was kind of what Aurora said. Like we were happy. Like the number one thing we didn't want is we didn't want Royd playing as Zanami. That was the main thing. Like I didn't want.
Yeah.
And anything outside of that, like I didn't care about that much. So something that I think is really valuable that I learned this year is like, I'm sure you've had this experience with him as well, even though you guys were in SML at the time, is like something I love about Laspera, but also something that can piss you off is they'll argue with you, right? About like why you're losing or like what you think the problem is or what you want to change. And I think something for us that was really valuable is when you are the team that is like the underdog and you're losing, when everybody just gets on the same page. Like I said something about like how I wanted to play our set, and Last was instantly like, yeah, that sounds like a good plan, let's do that game 1. And then like everybody is together, and normally the two people who are arguing aren't arguing, and then everybody's like, fuck yeah, let's do this, and I feel like that's like such a powerful thing if you are in that spot, and you can kind of cope yourself into being delusional enough to believe like, yeah, it doesn't matter that we lost 500 games to them, like all that.
And then on the other front, like on the other front, from like we've all won. So from like our point of view, like we thought like, okay, we have like 7 different ways of beating them. Like, what's the easiest way for them to beat us? Or like, it depends. Like,
Yeah.
how do we want to beat them? Or how what's the way that they can beat us? And then you have like loads of different options. And then it was like, and that was definitely difficult to like lock down a lot. We definitely were a little bit more spread out. Like, especially for me, like after my gods were gone, like I told them like, okay, guys, before Worlds, like I need to know what I'm going through third. Like, I cannot have to be random bullshit after. Like, I need a third pick.
Yeah, no,
the
dude.
I tried to focus on.
the same thing with me. My team, like that was a conversation. They would always laugh at me, and they're like, "Dude, you have more than 2 gods." Because I'm like, I literally, because I wasn't playing Afro that much. Like I played it. Like honestly, the only team I could play Afro against is why I thought you guys were gonna for sure beat the Leviathans. Was like I played Afro against Leviathans, and I had like multiple good games against Leviathans. And I tried playing against your guys' team, like when we scrimmed you guys, and you guys would still like blow us out in dual lane every game. But every time I play against Levi, I was like, okay, like we're having good games against them. So I'm like, I'm not gonna play this because we're probably I'm not worried about it like when like for the Dragons playing or whatever or like any other team besides you guys because you guys literally win the game in the early game through dual lane. So like I don't want to play this pick because I feel like it's not going to let us do that against a team like you guys who win through dual lane. So like I played like Sobek and um Ardio were my 2 gods. I'm like I need a third god. I don't know what my third god is, but I thought Ganesh was just bad at that tournament because I thought duo pressure mattered like way too much. Like I played it against you guys like in game 4, and I thought that was so bad. Like we just lost the game for free. Like you guys beat us with it, but I think that was the only game that we beat you guys in lane. All 5 games of our set in the
Yeah, that
semis.
was like game 3
So
or something.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was game 3. Like there was the only game
yeah.
where like we came out of lane with like an advantage. Like all the other 4 games, like you guys beat us. Um, so I didn't have like a real third god, and I didn't know what to really play. So I think that was one of my like weak points, I guess, that entire world.
I think it's
Um,
really difficult too because when you are like, I think there's kind of two things that are pretty synonymous with like the three of us is like one, I think support has such a big impact in terms of like the way your comp wants to play out, right? Like for example, like let's use Athena again. Like if I pick Athena, you can't really expect me to be able to like peel a full dive comp, you know, like I literally just I can't do it in my kit, you know, like compared to like something like maybe a Yamoja who can play like full anti-dive, like I just like I have one CC ability, like the potential just isn't there in the same way. So like if you want to play a comp to like turtle late game and you want to like try to counter dive and like kill their front line, it's a lot harder to do on some characters than others. So like one, it's what your support's good at and what style your team wants to play. And also if you're one of the people who are a decently like large part of the voice of the team, like putting that player in a spot where they feel like they have control of the game and they can shock all, they can like set the pace of the game, they can get everybody like on the same page. It's really hard to find a bunch of different characters that all do that and all like don't change your team's playstyle completely. Because I remember like on Ghost, that was something I would struggle with a lot, where there'd be games where I'm like, yeah, I think like Khepri is really good, but I'm the whole year I'm playing like Herc and Ardio and like diving and like gunning it down and like having that huge play style shift. It's really hard for a team to practice that and like be really good at all these different styles at once.
Yeah. No, that's why I tried to find gods that were similar to my other two, for example. Like it's really hard to find like you can get 2 gods that are very similar that play the same way, but getting a third that plays the same style is really difficult. Especially when it comes to like tournaments and when you're like a big part of the team as well, and you're gonna get banned out. Like it's very stressful having that third god because like god they just changed the draft, man. I mean, like even like a god like Yamoja. I'm trying to think of other characters like there are even like a Darji that can change the draft. Like if you've got a Darji or you have gods like that can change the draft in a second from the last pick, like you can just win your draft like that so easily.
Well, even like I'd say like season 9, for example, I think it was really hard to draft against you guys because you individually got to the point where you were just like fine first picking a bunch of characters. So like, you know, meta wise, like Yamoja and Khepri were just pretty OP, but there'd be a lot of players who wouldn't want to first pick like Ymir, for example, because they're worried about like, oh well, what goes wrong if I die early game, like my game's ruined or something like that. But when you're into the spot where like you're just like, yeah, just first pick me Ymir, I don't care, I'll have a good game no matter what. Like when you can do that and your whole team like pivots their identity around like whatever you're playing, it's really hard to it's like pick your poison, you know, because like what I'm gonna like ban 3 supports and then pick the 4th one and then you're still gonna have a character you're good at anyways. Like
Yeah.
what's the point? I ran up to that against stupid fucking Paul like 4 different times when we played them in the finals on like SK and PK, because like there's this characters like Cherry would just describe it as like annoying characters come like Worlds time. Like nobody wants to play against like Hell and have to worry about like the game getting snowballed and like having to get a bunch of anti-heal and all that type of stuff. Like there's just some characters like you don't want to deal with. In some ways, like you're happy if people are playing like, you know, Merlin comps and it's like very standard smite and you know what you're up against. So yeah. I I had a question that before we had talked about like the world scrims. I don't know how comfortable you are talking about it, Sam, but I'm curious. I don't know if this is a fair statement, but Coast had kind of said something similar to me, so I'm curious about your perspective of like, obviously in the SML or SEC or whatever it's called, you still take the game seriously, but it's a very different practice regiment compared to every single day you're waking up, you're living in a house or an apartment with other teammates, and like that's your whole focus, like day to day, that's what you're doing. It's a lot of pressure on you to perform, and you really only played with two different teams in that like sort of environment, right? Just the Kings and the Warriors.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, like with your shift midway through the year, what you kind of like learned about like scrim environments or whatever. You had said something about not being the person who would like uplift your team if you're having like a rough patch, something like that, you know? And I'm kind of curious, like, is that something you thought about after making the change, or is that something that you kind of like knew going into it?
I think it's difficult. So I guess I didn't really think about like, the bringing people up thing because I feel like when people are trying, well, when people are like trying, I feel like I'm a fine teammate and like I'm not going to be the reason we're going to be mentally out. For me, it was more like leadership and like because on Kings it was like really easy having like Twig when I joined like Twig, Harry, and Biggie were like three big voices, like all mature, all a lot of game time. Like they've lost a lot, so they know mistakes of like losing. Like remember when the invade meta started happening, like Ben instantly said to me like the reason Emilzy wasn't the GOAT is because he never learned to do invades. So the second invades happened, I was like, okay, like I mean, I guess like I have to try and do it in some way. Not to the same extent as you two, obviously, but like you have to. He knows that because he's lost before to that. So
Mm-hmm.
that was easy for me. But then joining Warriors, like I knew there wasn't really as much. They were winning off pure skill rate. So that was the only thing that I was worried about was joining a bunch of children, kind of unironically, and like stepping into more of like a, a voice role. Even though I had like a lot of power on Kings, I think they like those are the three. They if I was being an idiot, they would just call me an idiot. Whereas I think it's difficult playing with players like I mean Daniel's not confrontational. Like Daniel,
Yeah.
you tell him something, he'll come back to you 3 hours later and tell you, oh maybe you're right or call you an idiot. Royd won't say anything. Panny and Oxy were good, and Sot. I mean Sot's such a Sot. Like hard to say. Like quick like coin flippy, but that was my only concern, I guess. But I don't think I think I did quite well as the lead. Like I'm looking forward to not being a leader in my like future life or whatever. But I did like it. Like it is cool. Like I remember going into Worlds like when we were down 0-2,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen it before. Like when Ven, I watched back the Worlds in season 9. When you're down 0-2 or you've got one game left for Worlds, and it could be your last, especially when we know it's the last game ever of Worlds, whatever. Like down 0-2 with a bunch of people that like haven't ever been in that situation in their life. Like unironically, like I'm gonna cherish that moment being down 0-2 so much because to try and get people back on the same page and even come back to 2-2, like the crowd's against us a little bit. Like we thought we were the favorites. Now we're getting 0-2 smacked. Like that moment for me right there, like kind of made me really happy with my choice. Even if we don't, even as long as we won one game there, I'd be happy because seeing like Ven bring his team over on bolts when he had to do that, that was like really unique. Like you very rarely in life are you gonna be like have that much on the line with that
Yeah.
much responsibility and pressure. Like it's like really like good for character building in a way. Like kind of
It
like
is, yeah.
hard to explain. It's like very difficult to explain.
Honestly, it's like something I've learned about myself through like SMITE competitive is that's probably like one of my favorite feelings in general is like that like camaraderie, I guess, like the feeling of like struggling or like having an argument with people or like being on a different page, and then like the experience of the feeling of like everybody comes together, you're on the same page, you're like all united in like what you want to do.
Mm,
That's such a like empowering feeling. It could happen with anything, right? It could happen with comp smite, it could happen with
yeah,
like it just literally anything, and that's like one of my favorite feelings. And like you said, like I remember even moments like you can have a bitter taste about it, but I had a similar thing in season 7. We were like down 0-2 in the finals, and then like the feeling of like getting everyone back on the same page and like fighting back, like it does just make you closer as people, and
yeah.
it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's so unique. I mean, like again, like I remember like I get chills thinking about it because I remember saying like, guys, like we can win this thing, but like I need to be on a pick I need to be on a pick, or we like it's like so hard to explain. Like it's the amount of pressure is insane. Like
Yeah.
it's like so cool to it's like really cool to be under that pressure, but it's like so uniquely like esports and sports, but like when I play a game of sports, like there's not 50 grand on the line for each person.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's no and I'm sure it's even more with like other bigger games that had the bigger prize pools, but I actually feel when it starts getting to the amount of money that we were playing for, where it is like life changing, it probably doesn't change that much actually. So maybe I'm going back on myself, but
No, I think just like obviously we all were in such a privileged position to like live the lives that we did, or like to play professionally. It's such a unique experience, but there is parts like that where it is really hard to describe that feeling to someone else who like hasn't really experienced anything similar to it. Like there is a lot of like it sounds silly talking about it because you're like, oh yeah, we're just a bunch of like basically children arguing over a video game. But it
yeah,
doesn't feel like that in the moment, like it is like your job, and you are like there's a lot on the line. And even if it's not like literally money, it's even just like there's a lot of like pride and like ego that goes into it as well. Like even if you're not showing it in the moment, like
mm,
most people, if you do something competitively at that level, it's because you hate fucking losing, or you just like you just
yeah.
have such a big competitive drive. So it does like make everything feel so intense.
And like going off of that too, even without like worlds, like I know for my team, like this past year, like we started 5-5 and we had a rough first phase. Like everybody thought we were gonna be like a really good team. And I knew going into it, like I remember you and Twig were like, oh, the ferrymen are already scrimming, like they're gonna be the best team in the league. Like that's how you guys were like trying to paint the narrative as that coming in. But I
We
knew
did
in
that on
my head,
purpose. We did
yeah,
that
I
on
know,
purpose.
I know, I know. I'm not dumb. It's obvious. I know. You guys wanted to set the narrative as that coming into the league because you guys knew we were probably not going to be like. You didn't think we were going to be bad, but you didn't think we were going to be the best team for sure. But you wanted that narrative to
Yeah,
be set. So when we came in and we lost, it was like worse for us. And like
yeah,
it's like a mind game tactic kind of. And I know that looking like I knew when you were saying that, but I know going in for myself, like that's not gonna fool me at all. Like I'm telling my team like, yo, like we have to make it through this first phase. It's not gonna be easy because Cyclone hasn't played for like 4 months, 5 months, so he's like super rusty. So that was the main reason we started scrimming really early on was to get him like reps back in the game because he
mm,
hasn't played Smite really at all. Um, and then we have all these voices that we kind of had to like iron out like the whole first phase, and I think us going through that really rough like first phase made us the team we were like in the second phase of the year, like super good. And I feel like without going through all those like struggles in the first phase and all the hard moments, we would have not been nearly as good as we were the entire second half of the year. So I think just overall going through that stuff with anybody, like any team that you're on, like hard times like that, if you can make it through those things, which is not an easy task at all, it's like the hardest thing you could do, like when it comes to playing in a team, any team game, I feel like. But if you can make it through a hard time like that, you're just a better team by like a long shot of where you were at in the past. So I really appreciated it about like this team this year that I played on.
yes. We did call you. We kept calling it. We kept using the phrase "super team." I think was the phrase we kept using. We were like, yeah, they probably hate that, so we'll keep using it.
Yeah, no, it's good.
5-5 is not bad though. I mean, I think we went 5-5, but we started off 5-0, and then we went 0-5 afterwards. So it was a little bit
Yeah,
more difficult. That was a
that's
little bit
Dude,
more
tough.
difficult for us than the
dude,
5-5.
5-5 would have been our best split by a mile. 5-5 sounds great.
Yeah.
It's so troll, dude. I don't even know if maybe we were either 5-5 or 4-6 in the last phase. I don't remember. We had to pick up Coast to save our season. That little guy, he helped it out. But yeah, I think it's also funny. Like I don't know if you have this. Another thing I wanted to touch on that you brought up earlier, Gen X, was like you said they had like PTSD. I guess kind of like showing things in scrims. And I'm kind of curious if you guys have anything like that. I don't mind saying it because I don't think Coast would care, but like I had that worry going into the finals because we played you guys in the regular season, I want to say, and Coast was like, "Yeah, I haven't beaten the Warriors even a single game, like not one game in tournament play," and we're like going to the finals, and he had like said that multiple times, like we'd lose to you guys in scrims, and he'd be like, "Yeah, well, it's the Warriors. I haven't beaten them a game all year. Like, there's nothing I can do." And he didn't say it before the finals. I was like, "Thank God he didn't bring this up like right before that set." But I think it is funny when people have like PTSD, whatever you want to call it. It's
or even like hoaxes or whatever, like things
yeah,
they
yeah,
believe, they actually do believe them, like genuinely, even if
yeah,
it's like a joke. I mean, because
Yeah.
I had
I hate
PTSD
that
that
stuff.
yeah.
whenever we got to a game 5 on Warriors, we always picked low pressure. If you look at every game 5 we ever got to, we always picked low pressure for some reason, which is silly for a team like us to pick low pressure, but we always did it. And someone sent me a DM on Twitter saying you guys are such fucking idiots. Like it was like a big message, a long message saying like, why the fuck are you guys picking low pressure? Every game 5, you always do it, you always lose. And I was like, oh god, and I had a bit of PTSD going into game 5, and I forgot about it. But besides that, like everyone has something, right? There's always something that you will mentally be out about. I think for me, my only thing that I had PTSD about was like PTSD. When I played a character that I thought I was really good on, and people didn't play respectfully against me, I started freaking out a lot of the time. Like that's when
Really, that's
that was a really
interesting.
yeah. So like I'm trying to think what it was like. I think it was when I started getting good at emoji. I was like, these guys, they don't like no, they would no one ever do this against me. Like that was like things I'd say, and the other kings would like laugh at me, and I think they called me, like they just didn't understand it. But to me, I was like, if I'm playing well, I'm gonna kill you, and the fact that you got away with that like really pisses. I get PTSD from that. Like when someone plays improperly in the matchup, like how they're not
Wait, is this
supposed to.
in scrims you're saying that, or in a real game?
In both, in both, like if they got away with it,
Interesting.
I just didn't like that. It was like a little
See, I
thing
never
like
had that in a like real game, but I do remember like in the season 6 invade meta, I do remember like I hated scrimming the teams where their support wouldn't invade because I would just be like, "Oh, this is so dumb. Like they don't play like this on like a match day, or like they wouldn't do it this way." And then like I just feel like it would sack my practice a little bit, and I did hate that. But I feel like yeah, that's just I would not have guessed that. Like if
or
I had to
even like
guess one thing for you, it would not have been that.
but even like players like running it down against you that usually wouldn't run it down against you, you know, like if people like they're playing aggressive on you, it's like me, you would never if it's game day, I know you're never doing that. You're a pussy. Like you're never coming near me. You know, you're never contesting this poke buff. Why are you over here? Like stuff like that I'd get like that's like a scrim to game day difference, you know. But there was some
Yeah.
players that were really bad for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will be into no matter what game day or scrim. That's my favorite.
Yeah, you're the same. I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, Ben's the same. Like Ben was the same. Like he would play the same way in scrims and on game day. I think for the most part. I'm trying to think of an
Mhm.
example of like someone like I'm trying to pick
Dude,
a name out,
it's
but I can't pick
junglers,
one.
man. Junglers are always like that.
Well,
Junglers love it. Junglers play ranked in scrims, then they play comp in SPL.
maybe it was Sino. Like Sino would like there was a meth for some reason this for the worlds this year. He just kept invading our second purple, and I was like, why is this guy on my purple? And he
No,
kept doing it
no.
over and over.
That was because we were trying to practice a strategy, and
Yeah, what?
so we were forcing it every game. So
Mm-hmm.
we were just. I remember that week. He's like, okay, even if it's bad, I'm gonna come to every purple, and we're
Yeah.
gonna force it no matter what. So that's probably what it was. But that was that's that's funny though, because we literally that's what we said. Like that entire week, we just wanted to play every purple buff, basically, like just to
Mm-hmm.
see like if that was like a good way to play the map. So that was that, that's so funny that actually that's what the example you bring up is because I remember that week. But he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna come to every purple. This guy's probably getting very upset though that I am
Yeah,
doing this.
well, because it happens. Like I remember, there's like
Yeah.
different because it happens so much. So I remember like first off, I was like, okay, I guess this guy's just here. Like I don't know why he's here. And then you know you guys seek defend your blue, and then we lost lane really hard and we get snowballed on. And then another time, I think we like killed one of you, invaded your stuff. We reset, come back to lane, and I busted it. And I'm like, well, the fight that didn't matter anymore. And then we're like reviewing starts and like and then as well like when someone's doing a star like that, it's awkward because it's like why are they doing that? Like, are you missing out on something, or like what can we do? What can we be doing to counter that? And how can you find out they're doing that early enough to where you can react? Like, it's like so difficult. So that was infuriating. I hated that so much.
Yeah. No, we just wanted to try that. I remember just to see because I think we got away like during this. I remember during the phase we played a lot of prots and like a lot of purples, like, and that's how we
Mm.
won a lot of our games. And then like for some reason we just stopped doing that. I think no, the reason was okay. The mage solos became more of a meta, and at the end he started playing solo side more because like Raijin and Morgan Le Fay and all those gods, like if your jungler played on that side of the map, like it was just better because if you got one of those gods ahead, like I feel like I've said this before, I'll say it again. I feel like Raijin, that version of Raijin is the best god that's ever been in Smite. If like that god's ahead, like it was like the most impossible thing to play against in the entire game. So like if
Yeah.
you get that guy ahead, like it's impossible. But they got nerfed, and then he kept playing solo side, and we weren't seeing a lot of success. So he's like, you know what? This entire week, I'm just gonna play every purple and just be there no matter what, and just try it out. So that's why we did that. But it happened to be a bunch of games against you guys for sure.
I scrimmed you like so much. I scrimmed you like 75% of my scrims were against Ferryman. Every day, double block Ferryman, felt like.
Yeah. We we didn't double block you guys that much, I think, until like the last 2 weeks, I think, before Worlds. But
Maybe.
yeah, we scrimmed you a lot
That's a
for
lot.
sure. We scrimmed you guys and Levi's, and then you scrimmed Levi's and them, right, Mike?
Yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
the inverse of whatever you guys were.
How did your
'Cause
scrims go versus Leviathans? Do you remember?
for us,
Yeah.
there was like, I think the first week they came back, I think we had stomped them most games. And then I like to call it Shinto tournament time, which is he stops inting in my fucking scrims and he starts playing like himself, and then like they probably won like 60%, maybe 70. But I felt like they were pretty even. I had a similar experience to the Levi's as like maybe Aurora did, where um I felt like there were never really games where they would like blow us out a ton, and it would normally just be like, oh, we would lose like a beacon fight or lose the game or something like that. Like they felt like pretty standard games. But yeah, I actually thought at one point I was convinced that the Levi's were actually going to beat you guys. This was like maybe 2 weeks before the tournament. I was actually convinced that I thought the Levi's were going to beat you guys because they swapped something in draft against us that made it really, really hard to draft against them. I can't remember what it was, but like it was right after we were stomping them for like a few sets in a row. And they were just so flexible. Like it felt like they could just like pick anything.
It was.
Which I
Was it
go
the
ahead.
Cerberus Baron Kabrakin that they started flexing? I wonder. Because they started doing that towards the end. They started doing that. They almost won the tournament doing that, I think, before.
It wasn't Serb, but they definitely did play Baron. They started to do things where like I think looking back it was a bit scrim meta because I was practicing like
I'm sure.
whatever characters I wanted to play. And I remember we got to a point where we would force like ourselves to play against like everyone was spamming like Thoth and stuff, right? So we would like they just ended up being really smart about it where we would let them have Thoth and then we would have drafts that we wanted to play into it, like random comps. Like we would even try like dumb stuff that we like Suki mid, like that type of stuff, And what they ended up doing is every time we would give them like an OP first pick, their second, third pick, they would like blind pick like counter matchups, if that makes sense. So like Ronnie would just start blind picking Baron if he thought it would like stop me from picking like a counter into like Thoth or something like that. And then drafts just felt really hard because it felt like we would give them first pick, but then we didn't even like get counter pick back on second pick. And then it was really tough. But they ended up not even drafting that way in World. So I feel like it was just a scrim meta more than anything.
Did you get to experience the Kennet 20-0 Wheelix rampage?
Dude, only
I
a
missed
couple.
that. Praise
Dude,
the Lord, I missed
Dude,
that.
you know what Kennet did actually? It was during the tournament, okay? The like qualifier tournament. I don't know what team played it. Maybe it was Slash, actually. It was Slash, okay? He played Thanatos and he went off. He went nuclear. And the next day, we scrimmed Levi's, and Kennet hasn't played Thana once, and he plays it in that scrim, and he goes like 18-0 or something like that. And I'm just thinking, like, what the fuck is going? It was one of those games, like, I don't think Kennet plays like a complete bitch or anything in the SPL, but it was one of those games where like I'm like level 3 and he is gunning me down like across the jungle, and he's just soloing me. And I'm just thinking, like, what the hell is going on in this game? It just felt like we couldn't play against them for like a couple days in a row. I do remember that. The Awilix thing, not as much though. Honestly, the Awilix thing was weird for us because I was trying to figure out who the heck was spamming Awilix so much, and I think you guys had ended up saying it was Kennet, but he didn't play it against us that much. Maybe they were hiding it.
I don't know why he stopped playing. Did he play it against you guys in the semis? I don't even remember that set at all because I didn't really. I watched it like a little bit, but I didn't watch it that much.
So I can't remember. I can't remember. I have to look it up. But we were because we knew they were playing. We were like, well, we scrimmed everyone else. Like we know that it's come from somewhere. Another team started playing it against us, and I was like, well, guys, like if they pick that and like they because I don't want to play. I hate Sobek. I hate playing him. I hate playing against him. So if people start picking Sobek or Willix, like I'm not having fun no matter what I pick. So I was like, if Leviathan start picking that, like I'm not doing anything in those games. So against the Leviathans, I think we were really concerned about the Willix like really early on when everyone was playing it because Pani could play it as well. We were like, we weren't sure if we should play it or play against it. It was like really, it was a very weird time, like especially if you lost to it every game as well, which I think we did, like really early on.
Because
That was us with Thoth.
no one played like Sobek, a Wheelix, like they never played Sobek because they banned like it was so funny because you and Leviathans both banned Sobek every game against us, and then when we scrimmed against like going to Worlds, I knew I was just gonna get it every game until we played against one of you guys. Like I thought like we just get Sobek every single game, and I was like, I'll just play Sobek if it's up, and that's what I did basically. But you guys banned it every game, so it was banned. But they would just pick a Wheelix, and Kenneth would just run around and get like 20 kills every game on it. But it was definitely like I feel like it had more to do with like it being in a scrim, and people were just not respecting it as much. Because I feel like like a Wheelix is a lot harder to execute on, like in the pace of an actual game
She
compared to
is for
scrims.
sure.
Because
Yeah.
if you don't get those early kills, like you're pretty easy to kill.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but yeah, he was going off for like a week. I remember. And it's funny because we banned it a bunch, and then we started leaving up. He just didn't pick it. And we're like, oh, he doesn't want to grace us with his Wheelix anymore after he's beaten us with it for like an entire week. But it's pretty funny.
Well, that must happen with every Worlds, though. I mean, I don't think that really happened for us for season 9 because I feel like I was very happy. Like season 9, we won a lot of scrims, so it probably wasn't like that. But for you guys, where scrims were like a little bit more back and forth and like more like those method start showing before Worlds and then they just disappear entirely. You probably
Yeah.
have that for almost every year of the SPL, like running up the Worlds. It's like hard to keep a track on because you have to think about like, is it worth us trying or is it worth us ignoring, and who's playing it and like who actually does well with it, like Leviathans with the works, like I would say was probably the scariest team, just because I think it enabled some of their players that were a bit more passive, and the players that were vocal could run the game with it. So I was pretty terrified of a Willix. But then other teams, I was kind of like, well, if they get it, like it might be good. But so I'm sure like every single year you guys had that. It must be hard to keep track of, but
I mean, I think it depends. Like this year, it swings so much is the weird part. Like, because for example, I'd said at one point I was convinced the Levi's would do really well against you guys, and unironically, what swapped me back to yeah, they're gonna like lose to the Warriors is Panda just started picking Uller like every game, and I just thought Uller,
yeah.
I just thought it was horrible. Like I just thought the god was so bad, and a lot of our scrims, it wasn't even, in my opinion, doing that well. I was just like, he's just good at the character. Like he's gonna have good games because he's a good player. But I thought the god was horrible. And then I saw them like, oh, I just missed my chair. I saw him play it like at Worlds, and I was just like, yeah, like this character is horrible. There's just no way. Um, because they had the same thing. Like they played Uller game 5 against the Ferryman in the finals of the tournament before Worlds. I don't know what to call it, but like that, like fall final, whatever you want to call it. They played Uller in the last game and they got ahead and they literally like couldn't win the game because they just couldn't do fire ever. And I was just like, surely you're just learning from that an Uller plus like a Morgan Le Fay just can never do fire and it's horrible and you just can't pick it. But then when they started doing that, like I felt like they were just playing a counter pick more than they were like actually playing as a team or like playing their own comps. And then like you just get metas like that. I felt like I don't know if there was that many worlds where I feel like people did that, honestly. Maybe like
I played Kumba season 9 game 2. That was kind of bad.
but did you spam it a lot? I feel like you guys were such a
I played it
unique
a couple
team.
times, and I thought it was decent. I don't know. That was
But that's
just
not like a scrim
we
meta
killed
thing as
that
much, is
stuff.
it?
No, not a scrim meta thing, but that was like
it
a
was
draw meta.
in season 9 there was Set and Hebo, if you guys remember. There was a lot of
Yeah.
Set and Hebo spam, and like people were valuing Set and Hebo, and then like different teams are valuing different things. Like some teams are first picking Hebo and some people are first picking Set. I think that was season 9. In season 8, there was a lot of like there was a lot of AMC and Soul and Hell. I think like Titans. We were really trying to force that and we couldn't keep up in season 8. And that's all. But that's my career, so that's all I know about. But I'm pretty sure it was that for those years.
Yeah. The thing that I notice the most is people get really tunnel visioned. Like, let's say it's like a hell meta, right? People will do stuff where they like in scrims, people will like literally like first pick Odin if hell is open, and it might like dissuade people from picking it, and then they're just convinced like, yeah, first pick Odin is so good. And I feel like what ends up happening is when you go into a real draft in a tournament setting, people just won't force the matchup on those characters, like they'll pivot to another option. And then you're kind of like wasting a first pick in a sense. And then I feel like that's mostly what I notice is I feel like people care too much about winning scrims, basically. Like I kind of felt like that later on in my career. Like early on, it was really important just for team morale to just like win scrims, and we would just play a bunch of comps. Like I'd say like our original like E United team, we would just counterpick people. Like if we were a second pick side, we probably just won like 90% of the games because we would just have our side lanes counterpick people, and then they would just win the game by themselves. But that doesn't really carry over to tournament play as much as you would think, because it's just like, like what if your jungler can't gank your lane or babysit you, or what if you don't like literally solo your lane opponent? So yeah, I don't know. I think it just depends. I feel like post in the seasons that you played, Sam, I feel like it did happen less though, because I feel like the SPL the last 3 years was pretty good about picking like actual team comps or like drafts that made sense. Like I feel like for the most part, like if you played against the Ferryman, you knew what they were gonna like pick. Like you knew they had like a style they were really good at. I'd say the same about your guys' Kings team. Like you guys had a style where you like all played very coordinated and were like good at it,
Yeah, that is true. Like back, like you came in like when people were better. I feel like because people were like a majority of the teams were like not like even like the first year where we all moved. Like I was literally just running around as Herc, like killing everybody. Like I
Yeah.
was literally it was like I would load in as Hercules, and like I'm not even trolling. I would just run lane to lane and just like pluck, push people. They would die. I would go to the next lane, pluck, push people. They would die. And then I'm gonna go to. I feel like go to speed buff this game. I'm gonna walk there. I'm gonna push him into the wall, kill him too. But like I feel like people got better. Like especially in season 8, season 7, I guess is where it kind of started. But season 8, I feel like everybody like caught up more. Like in terms of like picking certain gods like that for drafts and trying everything more because like no one really tried playing Herc a lot. Like when I played, I think you played a little bit in season
I was
6.
literally a year later. It was
Yeah,
like,
and like Neil played it a
yeah.
little bit, but like no one really played it like at all besides like me. And then like I would play Horus that year as well, and I'd literally run around and do the same thing on Horus, and no one really played Horus either. I feel like that entire year too. So it was just different. Like I don't know. Like now I feel like if you do something, everybody's at least gonna give it a shot. Like you're like the tier is like a funny example. Like you playing tier, like if you did that like season like 4 or season 3 for example, and you were playing that tier and support, I doubt anyone would even try it. Like even if they thought you were good, like if they thought it was bad. But now everybody's like, oh, he's playing tier a lot. This seems good. Maybe I'll try it for myself. You know what I mean? That's not.
Yeah. Well, I was waiting for
It
someone else
kind
to
of
play it.
evolved more. Yeah.
I was waiting for someone
I
else to
thought you
play
were
and be
gonna play
like,
it more too, honestly.
okay, for the record, I wanted to play that pick so badly, but Penny kept laughing at me. We actually the last stream we played against you guys, Mike, because Tyr's very different to the gods that I play typically. It's a way more like North American style. We beat you with Tyr. I remember I remember slamming the desk and saying, guys, I can fucking carry you with a Tyr. Like with the Emodrian Kepler, I'm a passive. But I said like I think Tyr's really good, guys, and I kept saying it over and over. But like it's like very difficult when you kind of believe it but not enough. So I wanted to play into Afro. Like I thought it was my best matchup into Afro, and I wish we would have played it more. So one of my regrets for Worlds was not playing Tyr into the Afro match because I was just convinced it was really good. But I was waiting for someone else to play it.
I think it's really good too into that match. The displacement owned Afro. That's why Sobek was good too against her. I feel like.
Yeah, I
'Cause
just
you
couldn't
could,
play so I couldn't play Soviet though.
yeah.
I'm
No,
sure it was good.
what I mean, I think Tyr's like the same thing though. You just push her. Like
Yeah.
she has to ult your fearless, and if she doesn't, she's gonna die. And if she does, her ult's down. You just ult on her. I don't know. It seems good though.
Yeah, I think like it's hard to. I don't know. That's like a whole different thing, but it's so easy to feel like a god is good and have your teammates like kind of dissuade you a little bit because like they might not even mean it to be that way, but it's like you described. Like I felt this way about Herc in season 6, which is why I played it in season 7, was because in season 6 the entire year I would watch Aurora play it and I'm like, yeah, like I don't know if this god is broken or I don't know if these teams are noob, because he would just like play against, you would just play against like Dig, and Dig wouldn't do the invade start, and I'm just thinking like they're just ahead for free. Like it's obviously worse because you're literally like soloing people. But I was like, they're ahead in the game no matter what. Like these teams are just kind of trolling the start. Is I remember like how I felt then. And then we played the finals, and they basically banned out like all of our magical junglers because we would play magic jungle double hunter comps. That was like how we played on Rival. And I remember thinking like, I wish I just had one character where I just forced them to ban me. And then that's like what I did all season 7. I'm just like, I'm gonna force them to ban this. And I feel like you kind of fell into that mold as well, Genex, where you're like, I'm just gonna two trick like Kepri Emoja, and you did it for like 3 years straight, basically, to the point where like you know it's gonna get banned, and it's really hard to like find that next god that has the same impact, and it's really easy to like question yourself, like, should it be an entirely different style like tier, or should it be something like, you know, Ganesha or whatever else? Like, you just never really know. So it is always like difficult to figure out. I will say though, if you guys had picked tier Izanami, Coast and I would not have been happy. I know that for sure.
Actually, the Izanami, the thing about Izanami is the only reason we ever picked Izanami was against Umoja, because I thought it was broken versus Umoja. Like,
You guys
a guy.
picked Yamoja and Baron. He would pick fucking Tainted Izanami, and even if I tried to counterpick you, he would just Tainted Iza, and I'd be like, okay, he just gets they get a free lane. Like I'm just
Well,
screwed,
that was it. I mean, like, if it was, yeah, for Umoja and even Baron, because I think Baron we usually only got picked when I played Umoja or something. And I was like, if you just lock me down duo pressure, get me out of laning phase, I don't die. Like, I'm pretty confident that. So I knew people hated Izanami. Like, I was so funny. Like, it was. It's just gods that you know people hate playing against. Like, there's like one or two. Like, I'm sure you had it as well, Rob, with Paul on Hell. Like, there was just some times where he just started picking Hell, and you're like, oh, the scrim session's ruined. This guy's playing Hell every game, and then it feels terrible to ban it, because why would you want to ban? You don't want to show that you're annoyed by a character, but it also ruins your practice playing against it, because they're uniquely building the character. Yeah, they're unique.
Too.
Yeah. Like, who else is going to play as an army? Like, doesn't feel like if Pandacat plays as an army, is that a good use of what Pandacat provides to the team? You know, like, probably not.
Well, that's why, dude, there's some things about Royd that's so funny to me. Like, everyone calls him a merchant, of course, because of like the Izanami all around meta and all that type of stuff. I don't know. The last thing I had that I wanted to ask you about is, I think every team you were on, no matter what ADC it was, it happened with Hardcore, with Royd, the rotation to Pyro. I feel like the ADC being to Pyro first. I feel like you guys on the Kings were one of the first teams that really forced that. And Vote, Coast, and Panda, all 3 of the ADCs that I played with during that time, they all hated it. They hated the idea that they had to leave their lane and come to Pyro, and they'd be like, oh, well, if you guys just live in the 5v4, like, it's so much better for me. I get so much farm. I just get to stay here. And I think, like, people don't credit Royd, well, from my perspective, enough. I feel like Royd was always very, very good at rotations like that. So when he would play something like Izanami and then default win the laning phase and then also show up first to team fights, the game just felt so much harder to us.
It's just like a sacrifice. He's a guaranteed sacrifice that he'll make every game if he has to. Yeah. No, and it's like hard for players to do that, especially ones that like want to win lane, like Coast and Pandacat as well, and like a bit more vocal and a bit more, shit talky. It's like definitely difficult for them to like make that risk, because it's really bad for them if it goes wrong.
For sure, yeah. I mean, they also just have different ideas of like how they're going to win you the game. You know, like when I played with Panda, it was a very like he wasn't like wrong, but he's just like, yeah, if you just like basically if you camp my lane, I'm gonna win you the game because I'm just gonna kill everyone late game. And he's not really wrong, but different people will just have different ways they see that.
And it can clash as well with the player. Like, because for example, like I'm sure you guys had it as well with certain characters. Like maybe you had it with Atlas, maybe you had it with Althea, but for me with Umoja, I was like, okay, like you guys just pick to give me a good game and I will carry you, which is not typically a support mentality, but like it depends on the picks you're comfortable on, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just different for everyone. And
yeah, pretty much. Did you have anything else, Aurora?
No. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't bring up either? Genetics, or no? You good with?
No, we spoke about the jersey thing a little bit before, but there wasn't really.
Oh yeah.
We should have. That's a good thing. But before the podcast, I was like, we should have stayed before the podcast. But you were asking, he was asking if, what do we do with all our jerseys? Like, since we've played so many seasons. But for me, I just have all mine still. Because you were saying, what were you saying about your jerseys, Genetics? Like what you did with yours?
Well, I've only got a few. I've got maybe I had like 6, like three warriors and 3 kings, but like they're all different colors, and I'm like, I'm never gonna wear that. I've seen like behind Mike, he's got two there, like two teams that he was successful on. Well, I was like, well, I'm only on two teams, and one I was technically only successful on. So I'm like, do I keep one? That doesn't feel right. So I keep two, but then and then you just got so much. I'm never gonna wear them again, probably. So it's like
Yeah.
just difficult, and then you can give them away, but I didn't. I thought about selling them at Worlds as a joke. Like after they announced like Smite's over, I was gonna be like, oh, like jerseys, get your jersey, but make a quick buck.
I
Yeah.
I that's actually thinking about it now. I've given some of my jersey like I don't have either of the jerseys I won Worlds like that year. Either of my place, I gave one. My dad has one at his place, and then I gave it to one of my other friends. Jim has my other one, and then I guess some other random jerseys I've just given to friends too, just over the years. But I guess I don't have all my jerseys, but I have like a majority of them still. Maybe I could make something with them. It'd be cool. But yeah, I probably won't wear them either. Really, they're just cool to have.
I will never put them on, honestly, ever. I have them just as like, I mean, the ones that I have like knocked down behind me, like I want to update it, and for me it's more of like a memory thing. Like for example, like the Dragons or like United or like the more obvious like Worlds years or whatever, but even like I wouldn't describe myself as material, but I would describe myself as like sentimental, if that makes sense. Like when I look at like the rival jersey, this is gonna sound so corny and it's gonna make me like want to throw up, but it doesn't make me think of like the rival team. It makes me think about like being in the team house with those guys, and hanging out with like Alec and Twig and Slaney and Max, and like all of us is like going out and like doing stuff together. And it's just like it just brings like good memories, and those are like my favorite things throughout the year. So I like having them around for that. But I have like, for example, I played on Envy for like 2 months, and like we weren't good, but I still have my Envy jerseys just to have them. So yeah, I don't know what I'll do with them eventually. Maybe I'll give them away or something.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been fun talking. And if you want to find the podcast, you find it on both of me and Mike's Twitches now. You can find it on the YouTube channel. Go subscribe to that. We're gonna have all the episodes on there. Um it's traveler'sproc, right? youtube.com/traveler'sproc, or I don't even know if we have the slash, but just YouTube
It's
traveler'sproc.
youtube.com/@traveler'sproc.
Yep. And then also, if you're looking for some support builds, go check out SMITEsupportguide.com
Mhm.
and go check out Genetics' website. It's really good. Um, but yeah, thanks for coming on. Also, the Spotify is Smite Podcast, right? That's where you can find them, Mike.
I
It's
think
gonna
that's
be
right,
now.
yeah. And I also want to say, I don't know, I'm sure he's talked about it and everyone in Gen X chat will know for sure, but obviously follow him on Twitch. You're like one of the I feel like, are you the only support player that's still kept streaming? Like pretty much every day, I feel like you've been pretty consistent with it.
Tyler's doing it, but okay. To be fair, I haven't streamed the last few days because I'm moving. I'm moving on Saturday,
Yeah.
so I've been preparing for that. But yeah, I'm gonna be like pretty much the only besides Horrywind who does pretty good content. But like, yeah, it's pretty much me being the only like proper one.
So yeah, if anyone's not following Gen X, you should for sure. We'll drop the links in all of the VODs as well. But yeah, thanks for taking the time, Sam. It's fun.
No, cheers. I mean, good luck to you guys next year as well.
Thanks, you too. I'll be watching the stream for hopefully more. I'll be honest, I'm gonna miss the SPL VOD review rage moments. I needed those. Those were essential for me.
Maybe they'll be back at the end of this year, maybe next year. We'll see, right? That'd be
Yeah,
sick.
who knows? I have tuned into some games of you and Nika losing your minds, and that always it has a soft place in my heart. I love it.
Yeah, in the last thing I'll say is that they tried to make me do the finals interview, but I didn't want to do it because I was so stage nervous. My knees, even in like the interviews in the studio, my knees would always buckle, and I was really scared about passing out during interviews. No, I don't know why, like, but I was like so terrified of doing it. So I was like, nope, Royd, you got to go up and do it. I'm not passing out on stage. But it would have been cool to have a little me and Nika
Yeah,
interview at the end, and I just start beating him up.
you just beat the shit out of him before the matches.
Yeah,
Holy crap!
just break his fingers.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks everybody for watching. I think that's all we got. We'll be back same time, I think next week as well as the plan. So yeah, see you guys then.
Yep. Goodbye.